days early, but what the heck?
Yeah, I mean,
Hey, we got a lot of stuff. Yeah.
Sam's off in Cedros.
Oh
I'm sure
yeah,
he's
yeah.
having
I'm
a great-
really Sam. Here, I really feel for you, Sam. If you're watching, yeah. Big yellows, big sea bass, calicos. Yeah, Sam.
I
I
know,
feel
man.
really sad for you.
You know he's having a good
Yeah.
time already there, right?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Unbelievable.
Cedros is an incredible place, and we can talk a little Cedros tonight. We definitely are going to talk about what's going on here in SoCal right
Oh,
now.
of course, of course.
It's
Well,
crazy.
Cedros, I look back at it, when we lost that, and rightly so. I mean, it is Mexico, right?
Yeah.
But I do miss it, and some of the bites we had on the sport boats were just ridiculous. Where we're just straight catch and releasing them because it was absolutely crazy.
Oh my God, I know.
But yeah, so we didn't usually keep any calicos, yeah, but it was some of the best fishing you'll ever see in your life.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that because we always think Cedros yellowtail, but my God, the calico bass bite, and something that's been going on here for the past several weeks. It's not on everybody's radar, but it's on mine. Is some really great white sea bass fishing.
Oh, huge.
Yeah,
Beauties.
right?
Beauties.
Yeah.
Beauties. Yeah. It's a special place. It's a special place. Yeah, I used to enjoy dipping in there and topping off or loading up on the way down. Sometimes it depended. If it was on, we'd sneak in there. Not sneak in there, but it was open back in those days.
Right.
Yeah. So, but we're making do wherever we have to, and I have confidence in our fleet that we have other places that we could offset it.
Yeah.
And have the same type of fishing. Maybe not exactly the same, but still very good fishing.
You think that shark head's kind of in your way there? I think it is.
Is it?
Yeah, a little bit. We'll put him right there. How's that?
Oh,
That's
Sharky.
better. We can see you now.
Yeah.
And also, they catch a lot of black sea bass down there. They catch all kinds of different stuff, man.
Yes, it's been a wonderful place. It's a great mix, and I don't blame them. I mean, it is their territory. When you do get outside to Aleos, of course, that's a 2-day commitment down and 2 days back. It makes it a little tough.
Yeah.
But that's also great fishing, but it doesn't afford you the calico fishing and things like that you do inshore.
I spent many a great Father's Day on the Polaris Supreme with my kids down there, and those are such memorable trips.
Oh.
And I think a guy that you know too, I can't remember his last name, Billy. Good friends with Tommy Rothery, the guy that owned
Billy
it.
Stevens?
Yeah, Billy Stevens.
Yeah.
He was on every single one of those Father's Day trips.
Oh, yeah.
So we would all, just have such a great time together.
Yeah, Billy ran the Fortune for us.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly.
At one point too.
He's
and Gigi.
Yeah.
I had the first woman skipper.
Yeah.
Ever, and she was phenomenal, and she still is phenomenal. And I think she's running a big tug company. I think down in the Gulf now.
That's pretty crazy,
She's-
huh?
But no, she's just great. She was a great fisherman. Don't take anything against she had that.
Yeah.
But that comes from the family background. Carl, her dad, Carol, who was always in the office.
Carol
there.
Stock.
Yep. At
Yeah.
Point Loma, and her brother Paul. So I mean, it was a great family of fishermen. So,
Yeah. I love
comes
Carol.
around.
She used
Yep.
to call me her little brother, and she was my big sister.
Yeah, it was good fun.
She's
Yeah,
an
it was
awesome
good times.
person.
Yep.
Hey, can I read you a couple comments?
Yeah, let's
You're
go.
already up to
Let's
8
go.
likes, man. Hey, everybody
Hey.
out there, thank you for
folks.
giving Danny's show a like, man. That is absolutely fantastic. Hit that like button. Share this show tonight. People can join us and ask Danny a question. It would be absolutely fantastic. If you tick that little bell, you'd be notified when there is new content, of course. And don't forget, you can see us also on Instagram and Facebook and TikTok, all those other crazy social media platforms. Travis Bright, who's going to be on the Apollo Thursday night. Good evening, guys. Hey, Travis, great to see you. SoCal Drew. Evening, Phil and Danny. Isaac. Hey, Isaac was on board the Voyager, and they had limits of bluefin last night. His son, Ethan. They had a great trip,
Cool.
Danny.
That's
really
awesome.
great.
That's awesome.
He is saying, good evening, gentlemen. Got processed some fish. So he's processing bluefin tuna right now, I'm sure. And our good friend, Jeff Yeomans. I just saw Jeff on the little live show that I did. Jeff, always good to see you, my friend. He says, hello, Danny. A member of the United States Navy, man. I always mention that, right?
Military, you guys. Thank you for your service. And I mean
Exactly.
it. I come from a family that, my uncles volunteered out of the camps, the relocation camps, to go serve in Europe One actually went out in the Pacific to go decode Japanese.
That's amazing.
You know, and then my dad did 2 tours in Korea in the Air Force. So,
It's, I mean,
yeah,
we talk about it.
We're with you guys.
Yeah,
all the way, 100%.
We talk about it a lot, but not to get into the Japanese internment camp thing, but I have to get into it just to say that a lot of people would be interned and then carry a grudge for the rest of their life, and it would eat away and destroy them. Where I think most Japanese people said, hey, you know, this is an awful atrocity. It's horrible. It shouldn't have happened, but I got no choice but to put one foot in front of the other and move ahead for my family and everybody else.
You know, if you let it, it'll eat you up. If you harbor that resentment, it'll eat you up. It's better to just go forward, you know. And you saw a few weeks back with Kiyomi, with Jeff, when they used to sneak out of Manzanar to go trout fish.
Yeah.
So you see their mentality and how they've dealt with it over the years, and that was, I think, a healthier way of dealing with that.
Absolutely. Hey, if you're tuning in and you're going, that doesn't look like Sam De La Torre. This is not Tackle Shop Confessions. It's because Sam is on the island of Cedros right now, having some fun with a bunch of the guys from Island
we
Fishing
really
Tackle.
poor Sam. Poor Sam. Killing calico. Yeah, poor Sam.
So
White
Danny
sea bass
so
shows.
graciously is filling in here tonight. From Montana, the Harnjack family says, good evening, Danny.
Good evening.
Charles says, going out of berth 55 on a full day boat, how do you think we will do and what should we bring? Man, Charles, I'm going to turn this over to Danny in a moment, but just listening to the scores today, and they're extending from below the border to up into this neck of the woods too,
Yeah.
Danny.
Yeah.
Yellowfin, Dorado. What do you think?
You got to bring mainly your 25s, 30, 40 stuff, for the local fishing for the most part. You do almost always have to carry or some type of a rare rod, a 80 to 100 pound, because if you get into some of those bigger fish, you just don't know. You could pull up on a spot and they could be the jumbos. And if you don't have that tackle, you're going to have a tough time with 40 pound. It just makes a huge difference when you're dropping a 300 to 400 grain, flat fall or something, or a knife jig. You're going to need that. You're going to need that because in the event that happens, you'll be killing yourself, if you don't. So bring that in your arsenal with you. But, most of the stuff, I think Phil said, it's all going to be lighter stuff, for the most part.
I think so, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You had 20, 25. We bring a 25, you just top shot with 20. You don't have to bring a whole ton of stuff, although I'm the worst when it comes to that. I have a bundle. But, over the years, I have learned that each line class has its particular, utility and time and place. And I learned that fishing amongst 30 captains last fall. If I didn't have that arsenal with me, I wouldn't have had, the same success I did without that arsenal. So be prepared.
Yeah, Charles, I think that's good advice. Charles says a Kuma Andro 1,600 pound should work fine, right? Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I
absolutely.
mean, to keep our reporting honest as we do here at Friedman Adventures, Danny's right with me. A lot of this Dorado is 3 to 6 pounds. It's not all that big. So as Danny's pointing out, 25 pound is going to give you plenty of pulling power on that grade of fish.
Yeah.
The problem that Danny is so expertly identifying is sometimes you go in the water and it looks like 3 to 6 pound Dorado, and then all of a sudden it's 100-pound bluefin, and you hang one of those on 25, and you got some problems on your hand.
Yeah, it's better to, pull, either get them or break them off, and then go back in with some heavier line,
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Charles
yes.
normally brings 225s, 240s, 265. Charles, you're all set up,
You're
dude.
ready. You could always top shot them differently too. Once you have your, those outfits, you're pretty well set to drop down to 20 with your 25, and you could span it from there all the way up with what you've got there. So that's a good deal.
You're going to be on the El Dorado, I'm guessing, Charles. They've been doing really well. They're good fishermen on that boat. I've been over at Berth 55 doing some podcasts recently with Pat Whitaker, the bait boat guy. So all I can say is, Danny and I wish you the very best of luck and hope you get them. And from what we are hearing today, Danny, boats with 100 plus Dorado, 100 plus Yellowfin, stuff like that going on. Not
Great fishing.
everybody,
Great
but
fishing,
there's
though.
some
Yeah.
awesome scores today.
Absolutely.
It's looking really good.
Absolutely.
William Padilla just got out of electrical class. Now I'm relaxing, enjoying a great stream. William, thank you so much for being here, man. We really, really appreciate it. PNS Hornjack, back to Montana. Danny, on your last trip, you said you straightened out some hooks. What brand did you switch to? Or what brand small hook do you recommend? He's talking about like a size 4.
Okay, it's very specific. Okay, when I'm albacore fishing or I'm fishing a light line bluefin, and I'm not talking about the big grade of bluefin, but the ones that we used to fish with 15 and 20 pound, the 20-pound fish, 20 maybe 25, or where they're touchy. Let's just put it when they're touchy, and you got to drop down the line size, 20-pound fluorocarbon. You want to correspond with the hooks, and at that point, the best hook for that size fish, and let me specify for that size fish, smaller fish, is a gamakatsu. They have it's a light ringed hook, and like the number 2s and number 4s. And with the ring, these things weigh 350 milligrams. So on a small bait like a chovy or a sardine, they could hardly feel that. We may not see that difference in weight, but those fish, let me tell you, they swim, and the way they get bit when they're hooked with the lighter hook is tremendously bigger. Now, as the fish scale up, you got to go heavier with your gauge of wire. As you go heavier in line size, I went up to like a Gorilla Light, and then when you started getting into some of those fish that Phil and we got into last fall, on the Freedom when we were up on the bank, you're talking 65 to 100-pound fish. I pretty much straightened everything out. Didn't matter because you're pulling too hard at that point. I was fishing 30. But when you have that lighter line, they won't eat the heavy stuff. They won't eat the 40. You got to use whatever it's going to take to get bit first, and then you just have to pull like crazy to get a shot at landing them. You can't soak them. You'll be on them forever, and they'll either chew through it or you'll have some problem down the line. So you got to put the screws to it. And at that point, it was just about keeping a hook from getting straightened out. I was using a 4X Mustad that was ringed, and so. You have to assess it by the size of the fish too. And if you don't get bit, sometimes you got to take that chance and drop down to a little lighter wire, but, judge it by the size of the fish you see coming on board, and that you see in the water.
Hey, tons of people watching.
Yeah.
Please hit that like button, man. It's rocking and rolling here today, Danny. Isaac and Ethan were on that trip on the Voyager, had a fabulous trip. They brought Pablo and Isaac, another young man out there, and they had a great, great trip. Isaac has a question for you, and I bet you can answer this, Danny. Any tips on processing fish? Do you rinse in fresh water or just dry them with a paper towel?
Oh, and you're doing it at home?
Yeah.
You really just want to dry it. You don't want to use fresh water, because the fresh water, if you do freeze it or whatever, it'll discolor it, and it'll ice on you and freeze that part, and it'll mess with the meat. So you just want to wipe it down with a paper towel. You want to keep the natural oils, that helps seal it. And then if you vacuum pack it, you do that. Do not use water, because the fresh water, like I said, once it freezes, it changes some of the properties in the meat too.
Excellent answer. Love it. Acme says, hey, Danny, the smallies are chewing top water down below Havasu. Wink, wink.
Okay, now.
Who is that? Do you know? Acme?
No.
Well, he
But
wants
I got an answer for you.
Go ahead.
Okay, anyway, I am going to talk about bass today. We are going to delve off there because, that was what a lot of us skippers did when we got off the boats. And it was very competitive, between Taka. We had Kenny Hess here. We had our San Pedro guys. And then, of course, down in San Diego, you got the John Collins, the Sansom brothers, Don and Danny. You got Ray Montera, Nick, Irv. You got all these. I mean, it was very Murphy. You got some great fishermen, and I mean great fishermen. You talk about all the skippers compiled, and their mentality. And that's one thing I'm going to get in today, too. I was just telling Phil, on the weekends I'll sit there and I'll look at some of these Bassmaster shows, these tournaments that they have. And just recently they've got into using the live scans, which is essentially was the scanning sonars that we implemented back in 1983, 1982, 83, it was the Westmars, the color scanners. And because of that, with all the skippers in San Diego and up here that were utilizing that, in our heads, we're processing things a lot different than most people. And then I'm looking at it now, it's almost 40 something years later, and I'm watching these bass shows right now, and they're using these live scans and stuff. The problem that, or the thing that they're not understanding yet, or they can't see, is when you're on a trolling motor, you know, now they have a thing that will lock it in place. But it's also very difficult for them at that point, prior to that too, to determine the current. Because if you're not holding constant, where we were with double anchors, and when you made a cast out of it, went up, downhill, or uphill, you could tell, and you would make your adjustments in the way you set up on the spot. It's very much the same way that we approach it when we're outside, like in Cortez Bank, or fishing the spot on an island. You got to fish it with respect to the current. If you're on the wrong side of that point, you're not going to catch anything, folks. Those are things that are basic that you have to figure out. It takes time, and what I see even with these tournament fishermen, these big bass tournament fishermen that are on the Bassmaster Classic and stuff, they don't have they didn't have that upbringing and the background that we had with that, and that's what gave us an edge when we fished those lakes. There's a reason why we had the success with some of the bigger bass, because we understood that we're fishing specific structure on structure, but with respect to the current, and that's the key thing. And you won't ever hear them mention that on all these shows. I'll sit there on a Saturday and watch these guys in the tournaments. I'm going, holy smokes! Number one, they're implementing a unit that we used almost 40 years ago. So I mean, I'd say we were a little bit ahead of the game. But in general, most of our people here in Southern California, and I reiterated this before, because we come from a technology-based environment with Hollywood, aerospace number one. You got JPL, Caltech. I mean, Disneyland. Everything and all of us that are here in Southern Cal, or anywhere, where you have technically based things, in our heads, that's how we're thinking. I mean, this is how fishing tackle evolved that way too. From rods and reels to electronics, and even line. My sea daddy Russ Iser, the father of Spectra, took a lot of heat when we first got that, and when he first brought it in, a lot of people said, we're never going to use that, blah, blah, blah. And I look now, we pretty much implement that with every facet of our fishing, even my trout fishing. Let me give you another one. With bass fishing, it's helped tremendously. But let me tell you something. I fished with a guy named Ray Beadle, who's one of the top fly fishermen in the country, or in the world. And Ray told me that there's no way they could have broken marlin records with Dacron, because what happens with light line, light tippet, the drag from the Dacron, once it absorbs water, creates so much drag, that alone will break the tippets. Now a Spectra cuts through the water, does not absorb water. And so it allowed them to start breaking world line class records because of the Spectra. So Russ Iser had an impact on every facet of our fishing industry. So, again, that came from here. Came from right here at 22nd Street. Russ on the first string and Iser. And I can remember some of the early days when Russ caught a lot of heat, or we caught a lot of heat. Say now we'll never use that stuff. It cuts through anchor lines, blah blah blah. Well, guess what? They were all wrong. In the end, Russ was right. And we can be very thankful to be around so many of the great innovators and guys that took chances and went out there and will not settle. That's going to be some of today's show. I'm going to go into some of the bass stuff and show you why we had some success. And I brought some of the things that we did as far as with starting sonars, starting with the scanning sonars, even fathometers. I worked with Daryl Lawrence on doing ads and things, and pushing Lawrence equipment. We did fishing shows to help push their LMS, the units when they first had the GPS and Loran's hooked up into these systems, which was a little bit behind what we were already implementing out here on the West Coast, but a lot of the stuff that brought it nationwide. And so these are some of the things that we want to talk about, and I want to start getting into too, because it shows our West Coast mentality on things, Phil. Our mindsets are a little bit different from when you go around the country. So I'm talking about all the bass guys, where bass is number one in this country because they're available in 49 states. But with our guys, because of what they understood with the currents and the way things are going, we had a different approach to it. Fortunately, we have the political side of our state that's completely destroyed our fisheries too, our inland fisheries, which by not listening to us with their quagga mussels, and not implementing. We had told them build these ramps where you could have it filled with solutions where when you're leaving the lake, you could pour that through your system, pump it back out, and then another boat come in and do the same thing. Now we can't even fish them. I mean, it's got to be dry. You got to inspect them. It's really really messed up, and we can thank our state for that. Just completely mismanaged. And so they've done a great job of taking a trophy fishery and killing it by not using their heads. So I'm not being a little too strong on that, is it?
No, you're being honest, right?
Yeah.
That's what you always are.
I didn't flat out say stupid.
Yeah,
but it was stupid.
You just did.
What did I say?
All right, good stuff.
You want to get back to some questions?
Yeah, I mean,
All right, we'll
they're
get back
piling
later.
up here, let me tell you.
Yeah.
David Alcantar is heading out on an overnight on the Producer. Tomorrow's spot's still open. Fish are biting. Time to get out there. He is absolutely right.
Absolutely.
Charles is going to be on the Ara Ann. Great boat out of berth 55. Good luck, Charles.
Ooh.
Hope you get them.
Cool.
Isaac says you made reference to a hook that was working really well for you. He said, that's the hook I was using on my most recent trip. No issues at all.
Right.
Travis Bright, how has the Colt Sniper or Chrome yo-yo bite been on the yellowfin? It's been good, Travis. The guys I've talked to, they're in these bites where they're biting just about everything you throw at them. So I'm not so sure
That's a good thing.
But that Daiwa Colt Sniper,
Yeah.
Little Chrome, 100 to 150 grams. It's been super effective, working really, really well. James Williams says it's all about the angle. He's really right about that. Gary Furlong. Hey, Gary, how are you, my friend? Phil, I hesitated on your Amigo trip, and it's full now. Any chance I can get on? Gary, you can get on the waiting list. There's always... It seems like at the very end, somebody will, have a problem or something will come up or a little bit even before the very end. So, send me a text. You got a paper and pencil there, Gary? 3, 2, 1, 657 227 6459. Don't forget, 5-day trip on the Independence with Friedman Adventures. That's October the 20th. You can jump on that trip by going to independentsportfishing.com and get more information. Jamie Argent says, hi, Danny, Wild Willie, Evening Phil, and Danny. And PNS Harnjack, Montana. Do you have a go-to deck boot, Danny? Your footwear. Do you have one?
What am I wearing now? It's a shorty, but it'll come to me.
All right, well,
It'll come to me. I'll tell you.
He
when
actually
I get
has another question, and this is one because it's your favorite long-range boat. He says he's on a 3-day trip on the American Angler, 13 days and counting. He can't wait, driving me nuts, seeing the fish counts go crazy. I think Danny's going to tell you it's only going to get better.
Yeah,
am I right?
It will just get better. Trust me. And you're on the boat, man. I mean, those guys. What can I tell you? I don't have to tell you. You're going back on it, but isn't it nice to hop on a boat for the first time or whatever and being called by your first name? I don't see that too frequently, and the effort that these guys go through. And trust me, that's an effort. I mean, I got that passed on from Taka when I was there. We made it a very personal thing, and when you do it like that. You know how you go on the Angler and they'll talk about this as a family deal. Well, it is. It is. when you're calling everybody by the first name and the people that you're with, and we do that on my trip. I mean, most of the guys are return guys, but all the new people, we treat them like it's family. For me to catch another fish is not a big deal. I'd much rather see the newbies. I would help them out. There's a lot more enjoyment out of seeing that. But they've got the crew. They're very professional the way they do things. You name it. But I mean, and most of the boats in that range of day, multi-day boats, they all have that professionalism for the most part.
Absolutely, 100%. My footwear is, I'll bet these guys will know before me. Bob Gifford actually bought them for me at Sam's place. I think they're the extra toughs, but they're the short blue, and they're wide.
Yeah, yeah.
I got a big wide foot.
Yeah.
I got a 14, 15 size, and then the wide. Try to find those shoes in China, by the way. When I was in China, I quickly learned when I come to the United States, I take back 100 pairs of shoes with me. You're not finding a size 14, 15 in China, let me tell you.
It's a different sizing system, yeah. I can't remember mine, but I went to Shorty's too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody out there is going to tell me what kind of shoes I bought because they saw them that day. That's how screwed up I am and how good these guys are for sure. Wild Willie heading out Monday morning, 9/11 on the Legend for a 3-day trip. Looking forward to the bite. It sounds like it's picking back up. Man, it does, Wild Willie.
These fish aren't going anywhere.
No.
They're there. And they're typical fish. They're going to be up and down. But, with 3 days, you're going to get them.
And I'm paying attention to the bite and who's catching and who's not. And Steve Taft on the Legend, he has been so good, so consistent, works hard. I hear people go on the boat, come back to me and say, what a crew, what a great effort they put out. And more times than not, they have a bunch of fish. So
Now, wait,
I think you're looking good.
Is he related to...
Yeah.
Oh, to Chuck and Bobby?
Yeah.
Oh.
Chuck's son, I believe.
Yeah, and Spike, the father, or his grandfather, I guess. Yeah.
Exactly. Bobby retired, I hear, right?
Yeah, and now there's another great fisherman, Bobby, and Chuck too. Both of them been around forever.
Yeah, Chuck is quite a guy. Definitely a colorful character. Let's put it that way.
Yes, he is.
Right?
Yes, he is.
Yes, just trying to be nice here. No, I'm kidding. He's a hardcore, and he's a great business guy. I mean, he's acquiring boats all the time, and he does a really good job. P&S Harnjack. Is it Extra Tough Wheelhouse brand? Probably.
Extra Toughs?
I think it is. Is it the wheel? Are those the extra wide ones? I think that's the one that it is, but I'm not sure. I could run out to my car real quick and go grab them and bring them in here. I probably should do that. I keep them in my car because sometimes I keep them here at the office, and then I'm leaving for San Diego. I'm over in Surfside, and I'm like, oh my God, I got to go all the way to Pedro now.
Oh my God, yeah.
Man, I've got like a first aid kit and my deck boots in my car, so I make sure I'm always prepared.
Perfect.
Ken Trenholm, who is a fabulous guy. Ken was on our Horizon trip.
Oh,
he caught
cool.
last fish, the biggest fish. He hasn't been in sport fishing for a few years. He came back out of the woodwork because he's watching shows
That's awesome.
on Friedman Adventures. So
that's awesome.
Ken, it's great to see you. Hi, Phil and Danny. For the Friedman family that missed your morning briefing, could you let us know what to bring for the Apollo trip? Bedding, yes, you need to bring bedding. Tackle, and will we be night fishing? Thanks. I don't think so, Ken. I was going to send out something to everybody on the trip tomorrow because things are so fluid and changing so much that I wanted to make sure. But I can tell you some things. Definitely, you want to have your bedding with you. You want to have a rod with 25, 40, and if you have one with 60 and 80 on it, I would definitely bring it. I don't think we're on an overnight trip. We might get a couple of hours in, but even whether we do that or not, there's some of that fish that gets taken in the daytime by using that heavy outfit and a knife tube, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And also the Daiwa Sakanas have been super effective, but 25, 40-pound fluorocarbon rigs. It's been smaller hooks like 1 and 2 circle hooks for the tuna, a J hook for the Dorado is just fine. That should really get you set up, unless all hell breaks loose tomorrow and it's a whole different ball game.
But you know what, Phil, you do, and I do recommend people, if you're going to have tremendous remorse if you get into a bite on bigger fish,
Yes.
and you don't have the tackle. I mean, you don't go elephant hunting with a 22, and you're going to miss an opportunity of a lifetime for you if you get into some of those big fish. And the difference between having a 60, 80, 100-pound rod, even with 60, you got a chance,
Yeah.
depending on how big these fish are. But you could have your fish of a lifetime on these flatbows, and you don't want to miss that opportunity.
Right.
It's not worth it.
You don't want to go to
Yeah.
undergunned, right?
No. And
No.
number one, you'll be pinned on it for a long time, and
Yes.
in the back of your head, you're going to say, why didn't I bring a heavy outfit? Am I going to land this? Do I have a chance of landing it? So you don't want that. You want them hung on the right tackle, So kind of if you don't have that, I think most landings now, you can go and rent some of these heavier outfits.
Yes.
But that,
Right here at 22nd Street. They're all
exactly.
The
But
San
that'll
Diego
save you.
boys all have
Yep.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
that'll make a big difference.
All right, and don't. I'll be in touch with you tomorrow, Ken. Thank you for a great question, Mark MJM. Happy Tuesday, Phil and Danny. I'm heading out on the Condor next week, man. That's going to be a great trip, Mark. For a 2-day, what 2 poles is a must? I think we just answered that, Mark. Pretty sure we did. Danny's absolutely right, man. You need to bring. I mean, just listening to Danny, I would say, okay, have a 30-pound rod, but man, you got to have a 60, 80, or even 100-pound. I would say 3 rods. It's probably
yeah.
what you want to have,
Yeah,
right, Danny?
Yeah. You
And
want to
so-
span those, yeah.
And Mark says, count me in for the raffle. Yeah, we have a raffle for a Penn Fathom reel. And more importantly, all the funds go to help us ship the items down to Mexico for this Christmas. Lots of clothing, educational stuff, medical supplies. I was thinking at one point, Danny, this is like taking over my life, this whole thing. And I was thinking, honestly, between you and I was going, I need to kind of tone this down. It's just, and then I thought, I can't do that. It's just, people are, yeah, exactly. We'll just keep doing it. And, one of these days I might drop dead. But in the meantime, all your help, donating the clothing, donating the medical supplies, participating in the raffle. We can do the raffle. You can tell me how many tickets you want. I can send you the prices. You tell me how many tickets. I fill them out, send you a photo. You don't even have to come down here. So 657-227-6459. Just put on there, send me raffle ticket information, and you can help us make the world a better place by reaching our hands across the border. Brian Pearson, what's up from Southeast Louisiana? How do you like that, man? Got a guy in Louisiana.
Oh, my God, I got a good story for you.
Speckled trout hitting, good bull reds are hammering just about anything within 10 feet of them, and marsh bass doing good, on fire, throw out the tides. Man, that sounds like fun there.
Well, that fishing down there, it's unbelievable. And I think I mentioned this before, but we were once at a Bassmaster Classic down there in New Orleans.
Yeah.
And Toyo Shimano came over to me and says, hey, you want to go fishing tomorrow? I go, T, what do you think? Do I want to go fishing? I said, yeah, sure. He says, well, this one captain, he's a charter guy. He wants to go toe-to-toe with you tomorrow. I said, okay, I've never fished there. I said, so what do I need? He says, so he came into the G. Loomis booth, and Toyo was over in the Shimano booth, and he walked over with him. And he says, well, you need a 7-foot spinning rod with a spinning reel with 10-pound. I said, can I use casting? And he goes, no, you can't cast that far. I'm going, well, no, I think I can. Been using a casting reel for bass fishing all my life, and saltwater fishing. So I said, I think I'll go with the casting outfit. So I grabbed a 7-foot. It was a PR 8400 Loomis. And then I went into the Shimano booth, and I think I grabbed a Chronarch loaded with 10-pound. Next morning, I meet the guy out there. He comes out there with the spinning reel. We stop, and we get live shrimp. Scoops of live shrimp, put it on his boat. We went out to the rigs, right? And we get out there, he anchors. It's like every cast. So me, because of the way we fish, and there's a saltwater skipper too, I'm hooking these things. I'm grinding them to the boat. I'm bouncing them while he's fighting this thing on a spinning rod. Then he nets his fish, and his fish is getting tangled in the net. By this time, I'm on my second fish. Throw that on, and I start lapping them because of the way the styles of fishing. So I'm looking at them, after a while, I wasn't planning on keeping any. He told me you got to take some home because they're excellent eating. He filleted them out, and he was right, you know. But I'm looking at that. I'm every cast I'm getting hammered. I said, do you have any plastics? I mean, it hits the water and it's gone. It's ideal for throwing a plastic. In our heads, we're from Southern Cal, right? He says, no, we don't have anything. I said, nothing. He has this one thing. The bag plastic was so old that I couldn't even see what was in it. And there was this I don't know if you remember way back, it was like just a plastic stick. It was called a salty dog.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
like a stick of rubber, right?
Yeah, right.
So I go, yeah, give me that. So I put it on a small lead head, fire it out there.
Boom.
Now I'm catching even more fish. I'm doing like 3 to 1, and then I'm just shaking them off, fire it out, hook them, grind them, bounce them, shake it off. And the more I did that, the more frustrated this kid got. But they would never change. They would never change. Kept doing the same thing. Well, folks, to me, that's the definition of insanity. I mean, you're a guide. You should be compelled to learn and pick things up, I mean, I did by watching. I mean, I was blessed to fish with some of the greatest fishing around, particularly like guys like Taka and Russ. I mean, there's so many of these guys that were such great fishermen. Corky Yokoi, Butch Brown, guys like that were around that fished with, whether it was calico trips or whatever. But Steve Yatomi, the list goes on and on. But we have that ability to pick up things from all these great fishermen by watching them. And he who makes those adaptions and converts and changes over are the guys that are going to win. So through all this smoking this, here's a guy that's a captain. He's doing this for a living. But not to change, that's to me the definition of insanity, And it just tells me at the level that we deal with. And that's true. I don't care whether you hit the bass circuit, and that's something I was later on going to talk about, some of the reasons why.
Yeah, if these people will let you get to it, man. You got so many
I got
questions.
to do, a lot.
Are you okay with the questions?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Well, that's the first thing is you guys. But we want to tell you what justifies it is, here in Southern Cal, we have, justification of that. Working with the first, color scanning sonars. I used to work directly with Daryl Lowrance, with his stuff. Gary Loomis, Toyo Shimano, all these guys. And we've had that blessing, but we have a different mindset, But that's what it takes. And that's what you guys have in general. Our fishing public is way, way ahead of the curve, when you go nationwide. So count yourself blessed, guys.
All right, great answer, Danny. Yeah. 25 likes already, 70 people watching. Hit that like button. Please, everybody, subscribe to the channel and tick that little bell. You'll be notified when there's new content. Share tonight's show with a friend. They can jump on tonight and ask Danny a question. Jamie Argent says he wears blue boots, the short Grudens. That's what he wears. Naughty Boy 78, good to see you here, my friend. Just picked up a new Penn International 20 and a Seeker 80 to 130 pound for a 5-day trip on the Pacific Dawn next week. Yeah, baby. He's all set up, all ready to go. I can feel the enthusiasm from him.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why we do this, folks. It's that anticipation, going out there, and the big part, guys, keep your eyes open because it's about figuring it out.
I agree.
The guys that figure it out are guys that will end up being very successful.
PNS Hornjack wants to ask Brian a question. In Louisiana, when fishing, do y'all ever have problems with alligators stealing your fish? Kind of like SoCal always dealing with the seals or sea lions. Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah. I'd love to hear the answer to that. Doug Rubin from the Barco El Sueño. Great guy, Doug. Thanks for joining us tonight. So good to see you here, my friend. He said his friend just got back from fishing offshore and said there's a ton of small flatheads, small Dorado, and the kelps along the border. Fresh information, man. Doug, thanks. Yeah, you get down to that
they
border.
Gotta be pretty thick.
Man, it's thick right now. It is
A
so
lot of color
good.
in the water.
There really is, man. And who knows, man? You might run into some YFT down that way. Somebody was asking about big eye tuna in this warm water. That's a possibility,
You
right?
just don't know.
Yeah.
You just don't know, folks.
Mark wants to know, Danny, Phil, how do you feel about 100 and or 130-pound setup, an 80-pound setup, and a 25-pound setup for a multi-day?
You know, I would, if you got 100, you know,
You
I
know,
would go with something above 25.
Yeah,
in
like a
between
40,
there,
right?
Like a 40.
Yeah.
I think you utilize that just in the event of, scratchier fishing, but then have your 100-pound for nighttime fishing, your flat balls, and when they really want to chew,
yeah, I
to
think
get into those bigger fish. But yeah.
I think that's good advice. Yeah, if you have that 130-pound, you can go to a 25 and 40 or a 25 and 50, and
Yeah.
I think you're good, right, Danny?
Yeah, and I mean, I prefer to have more. I'm sure they hate this, but to have more than less, and I have backups, because you just don't know. And sometimes that one rod class makes all the difference in the world. But you want to have them where you can kind of span across and just change top shots. So as long as it's within that realm, you got it covered.
If you're tuning in right now and you're wondering where Sam De La Torre is, no, I have not kicked him off the show for making fun of me about my albacore prediction. Sam is in Cedros Island, and Danny Kadota is bringing his show because Thursday night I'm fishing, or actually shooting video on a fishing trip. We'll be on board the Apollo. So Danny and I decided to bring you the show tonight, and I'm so happy because there's so many of you tuning in. Hit that like button. We deeply appreciate it. Isaac is back. And he said, I was lucky that I brought all my heavy stuff. And when we got into the night, even loaned a bunch of my stuff so other guys could use them. You never know. You brought them, so take them, or you bought them, so bring them along with you. I say too, yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Here's where I get a little screwed up, Danny, is it's pretty costly to go fishing now. And so when a guy says, let's say it's mostly this 3 to 6 pound Dorado, and then there's been 20 to 40-pound tuna. He's got a 25 and a 40, recommending that he rents a rod that he may never use, and he's on a budget. That's where I get. But then the other side of it is, man, you're doing this trip, you've invested all this money, you might as well be safe than sorry.
Or if you got a good friend
Yeah.
that you could borrow it
Like
from.
Isaac.
Yeah. Yeah, because that's, what, you had that one shot, and if those big boys come up and chew, you're going to regret that for a long, long time.
Yes.
So
definitely.
you have to be prepared. You really do have to be prepared. I've been, we ran boats long enough that I saw, it could change from day to day, but you have to be prepared for it. I don't care whether you're fishing trout, bass, or offshore. It's the same thing. Having your tackle prep, and having, a range of rods that have you covered, for any instance, is going to save your day.
Absolutely. Dan Smith is here. And I know his lovely wife, Kim, is out there with him. They're late, but they're tuned in now, Danny. Hello, Captain Danny, Phil, and all the fine folks of the Friedman Adventure family. Dan, you're a big part of that family. You and your lovely wife, Kim, man, it's great to see you here. Greg Bates. Okay, he knows what kind of boots I have. My right-hand man. Greg, hope you're doing great, my friend. You have tough text boots. No, I don't. I must have extra tough text boots. Oh, I thought he knew what he was talking about. Have you ever heard of those?
No, I didn't see any
Greg,
writing.
are you
I didn't
into
see
the
any
tequila
writing all
again?
over the boots.
I
That
think
type of thing?
extra tough boots, I think,
Extra
but
tough.
I'm not sure. I gave you this big build-up, Greg, and you blew it. Tough text boots. DJ TJ Smooth. Phil, how are you doing, my friend? I'm finally healed up from that heartbreak big bluefin tuna we lost on the horizon. Laughing out loud. Looking forward to getting back out there with the Friedman Adventures family. Man, I know that was such... Man, it tears your heart out when you lose one right there, doesn't it?
Yep.
It really
Absolutely.
does.
Absolutely.
But you're going to get another shot at it,
Absolutely.
guaranteed.
They're out there. You'll get one.
Jamie Argent, 4 and a variety of Opsin fluorocarbon. Hey, our great sponsor, Opsin fluorocarbon. Thank you for reminding me. www.opsinusa.com. Put in FA at checkout. You'll get a hug and a kiss from owner Greg Brown as well as a free gift. Good call, Jamie. Will do, says Mark. Best of luck, Mark. God, we got our guys. They are family members, man. They're all talking and helping one another. Sparkle Beetles, the salty dog you're talking about in avocado, is just like the oyster worms and has put 1,400 in the boat back in the 80s. Brian Pearson says that. How do you like that, Danny?
Yeah. Yep.
Jamie Argent, trolling, I'd run 120 or 130 Mobo for a little stretch for the bow. PNS Harnjack, speaking of good friend, Danny, got any heavy setups I can borrow?
Some of the stuff that I have, I'm sorry, but I can't loan out because if they were composites, I would say yes. But I'm into fishing straight graphite. I'm fishing strictly high performance stuff, and you have to fish a certain way before I'd loan anybody that tackle. It's as high performance. It's going to put a fish on quicker. But if you start high sticking those things, you have an opportunity to break it. But see, here's the thing, folks.
He says he's joking, by the way.
Oh yeah, no. But I mean, and this is the problem we see is these guys, and I see it from guys that should know how to fish, but I see them bringing the rods up, thinking the higher you go, the more pressure you got. Well, that's wrong. Okay, the higher you go, your pressure drops off considerably. And there's a reason why we use the rail, and I use from the rail down to do my fishing. And Phil will show you if you look back at some of the footage he had, like even on our Freedom trip, even with this little 30-pound stick that I was fishing with 30, was able to handle these 60-something to 100-pound fish. We couldn't get them to eat 40. But I guarantee you, if I had it up higher, I wouldn't be able to move those things. When you have it down low and you're using the rock of the boat, winding when you're going in the trough, timing it with the boat, timing it with the way it's swinging up. If you're getting those fish to come up and you stay on them with that heavier pressure, and you're getting, what is it, 2-3 times more pressure down here at 60 degrees than you are at 90 right here, if you're straight out. And when you see these guys go up here, you drop off in pressure. It's unbelievable. But it's telling me they don't understand the concepts, the rod concepts. And me in particular, fishing straight graphite, it's high performance. And you want to be able to, it recoils so fast, you can't even see it. But I'm staying up with it. I'm turning my handle the whole time. It's the reason why I use a 2-speed too. You never get a chance to get their head down. So every time they kick, if you're turning the handle, the head's pointed up. Every time they kick, where are they kicking, folks? They're kicking at you. So just a matter of keeping up with that line, and they're kicking themselves right to the boat on their circle. So, you have to be cognizant of that. The guys you see doing this, if you watched underwater, they lift up, they wind down, they drop their rod tip, and they get their head down, and they may kick and take more drag on you. The idea is to just keep them kicking at the boat, and they kick themselves right to the boat. And
Makes sense.
Particularly when you're fishing a bigger fish with lighter line, that's going to be your only chance of landing it. So it has to do with your technique, folks. So be cognizant of that. You might want to practice that. Keeping it from 90 down when you're holding it. Use the rock of the boat. If you're watching the swell, hold as the boat's going up, wind as it's going down, but just keep winding the whole time. And you watch it plane. Because if the fish's head is planed up like that and it kicks, where's it going? It's coming at you. It's when you drop the pressure off, they get their head down, and then they take a kick. It's taking drag on you. So keep that in mind. You just want to keep turning that handle, but you want to time the rock of the boat with the swell, and your winding. You just want a constant wind. Just keep that pressure on it. But you'll keep more pressure on it if that rod is down angled at a lower angle. Okay, that's the best advice I can give you.
It's great advice.
Yeah.
It will help people immensely. Yeah. I do think that some of our people tonight are into the tequila, unless I'm misreading this question. Jamie Argent, talking with others that fish teach us all boat, water, or here. Okay. Must have been voice to text, Scrub. Or you're into some really good tequila tonight, Jamie. David Alcantar. Speaking of the Apollo, the skipper Ryan Block is a big, largemouth bass guy. He has multiple double-digit fish. Danny must be right about the advantages we have here on the West Coast. Do we have advantages here on the West Coast, bass fishing?
Yeah. Well, here's the other thing, folks. You know, I think to some extent, those real big fish that I've caught, they're overrated in a lot of respects. You know, to me, I'll show you some pictures. These size fish, they're your 10 to say 13, 14 pounds.
Let me see that, Danny.
Probably are much better fighters.
Is that you? What's so funny about that?
Yeah, wait, I'm looking for some of the other ones. I had a bunch of stuff organized for tonight. Well, we have them, but that smaller fish, and I don't mean to degrade it, but the 10 to, like I say, 14 pounds probably fight a lot harder. When they get in the upper teens, they're a little more lethargic. And it's one reason why I used 10-pound line mainly, because number one, it broke very strong. With the knot, it broke about 17 pounds. Okay. But the thing is that when you have a smooth drag with your reel and you got a straight graphite rod that recoils, it's the same concept we have with fishing a big tuna, folks. I'm doing a short pump. Ironically, those big largemouth, they don't fight near as hard as, say, the 10 to 12 pound fish. They fight a lot harder. They're younger. They're in shape, better shape. You can see the shape. I mean, these things are a little skinnier, but they're tougher. They're faster. The big ones they're going to waddle along. And yeah, they got the weight to break you up, but that's why you have a drag on the reel. And I was using straight graphite scrim rods, so it's recoiling faster. Here's another thing, folks. I pull on freshwater bass like I pull on tuna. Okay, so I'm pulling hard at this angle down here. I watch these guys on TV, they're doing this, they're doing that. Now, I don't think they understand what they're doing, because when you're pulling with the rod over their head and everything, you got 1/10 the pressure up here, and you got no control of that fish because you don't have that pressure. And that's why these fish fight, they do all this the acrobatics and stuff. If you put the screws to them, keep the rod down low and short stroke it, you have much more control of the fish, And I watch that all the time. I just shake my head when I watch these tournament shows and stuff like that. I go, it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. And the concepts that Phil, I was telling you a little while ago, when I'm watching these guys with the live scan, well, that's great, You got basically like a scanning sonar on the bottom. These guys are watching, but you got to remember, this is 2023. We implemented scanning sonars back in 1981. So I would say we have a little bit of edge on, what's down there and how to read it and how to work everything, and then just fishing itself, we fish differently. I mean, if you go fish around the country, you won't find the guys short stroking and pulling on fish the way we pull on fish. I mean, even my trout, I'll short stroke it, even with a spinning rod with 4-pound or 2-pound line. But that just comes from habit, And honestly, I don't want to be arrogant about it, but it's a good habit to have, knowing what your tackle is capable of doing. So, that comes with practice, folks. That comes with practice. You'll see it as you implement that and utilize it in that respect.
William Padilla wants to know, Danny, would a Shimano Speedmaster be good for someone getting into tuna fishing without breaking the bank? You like Shimano Speedmaster?
I had everything Shimano made at one time, and those reels in its day was a great reel for the money. It's excellent, but I mean, it was great for me for, the albacore fishing, for most of your school-sized fish. Where it does start separating out, folks, is when you start getting into the fish above like 40 pounds. You really will do yourself a disservice if you don't have a couple, some two speeds that you could implement that. A lot of times you can save money by loading a larger reel, a smaller two speed with 80 pound or 60 pound, and being able to top shot, from 40 to 60 or, for that mid-range stuff, 40, 50, 60 or so, right? And under 40, you can go to, your single speed reels, But having that capability because of Spectra, and we could thank Russ Iser for that, okay? It gives you that ability to adapt over and to make a more versatile rod out of, a versatile outfit out of one reel, So that gives you gives you that change, that opportunity. So.
All right, Jamie
Yeah.
Argent. Stupid phone teaches us even if we are not on a boat. Back into the tequila, Jamie. Chris Pro, if I book a 3/4 day trip beginning of October, do you think the Dorado will still be around? Chris, Danny's going to tell you the same thing I'm going to tell you to be a guess. I do think so, though. And it's all going to be based on, I'll let Danny correct me if I'm wrong, Arctic-based storms, something that would cool our water down, would screw up the effects of this El Nino. But barring that, I think October should be great,
We
right?
got a nice biomassive chovy out
Yeah.
there now.
Yeah.
We got them in the receivers all over. That's one of their favorite fish. Favorite baits to eat, right? So there's a swing. I mean, technically, Phil and I are off the hook because they were four caught, right?
Yeah.
So we're off the
Well,
hook
that's
with
not
the
counting the
albacore deal.
private boaters that
Yeah,
didn't turn
true,
them in. They caught a bunch,
true.
right?
But I still think, there's a lot of stuff. The bite up north was phenomenal. And a big main part of that school was not that far north as you think it was.
Yeah.
So there's some of the commercial boats that were just sitting above us, and outside a little bit. So it could just take a change in the weather, over the season here. And as I recall, I think it was in '84, where we had those big albies in the channel, and right in between Catalina and from Clemente, Catalina, inside all the way into the inside area, outside the rigs. But there were those big fish around, so we just don't know. And I'm just saying, with the amount of bait and the amount of chovy and stuff like that around, I think we still have a shot at it.
Hey, everybody. Sam De La Torre is at Cedros Island. That's why there's no tackle shop confessions today. Danny's here with us doing a great job. Hal Cooksay. Hey, Phil, Dan, looking to get my first 100-pound rod, eyeballing a Graph Tech. Any thoughts on that brand? I've heard Sam say it's a good brand, but
Yeah,
Danny,
that's Ricky's brand, isn't it?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's Rick's.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
What do you think? Good brand?
Yeah, it's been around. Yeah, Rick's, that's been around for a long time. I think they have them at, what is Turner's? I think
Not
they sell them
sure.
at Turner's, something like that. Yeah.
You
Rick Ozaki's.
Oh, okay. And you
Rick
think they're
Ozaki's
good,
brand.
right?
Yeah, they've been around for quite a while. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
PNS Harnjack. I thought when largemouth fishing, you had to high stick. Always seems like it's a mandatory rule to look like an idiot and throw your rod all over. I was always laughing at the pros on TV.
I still laugh at those pros on TV because they really don't have a concept. And you got to remember, they're getting rods given to them, and
They don't
most of
care.
them are not high performance rods. I can tell you probably 90% of them don't use a graphite scrim, so they don't have an understanding how fragile it could be. But they don't understand the recovery and the recoil on a straight graphite. But you have to know how to fish first, And I've noticed, that gets happen. Yeah, I see it when, you're sponsored by a company, you get sloppy, but you're not showing the consumers the right way to fish. You want to watch the right way to fish. You watch some of the guys. Oh, we come off the ocean. We're not changing our style of fishing, and fishing these big largemouth that I fish the same way. I was fishing with 10-pound line. The difference is, yeah, you got a 18, 19-pound largemouth. Yeah, they're heavy. Do they fight? So no, the 12 to 14 pounders fight much harder, But it's a matter of staying with it and using the concept that you short stroke it When they're coming up, you put the screws to them, and you just keep it steady, and if they want to put their head down, you let them take drag. You don't fight them. You don't. But to my experience, those larger fish in the upper teens don't fight near as hard as the 10 to 12 pound fish. So, and most of those guys you watch on TV are catching little fish. But I have a problem in that I'm trying to push, which I did with back in the Loomis days, a graphite scrim rod. I have a problem that those guys and the tournament guys, they think they're going to be warranted for everything, which includes stupidity, and that to me doesn't fly. If they're going to use a high-end piece of tackle, they really ought to learn how to fish. And unfortunately, I see a lot of guys on, pros fish and play. They may not like what I'm telling them, but I'm just telling you the truth. They're getting their rods, and fortunately, I think for most of them, they got a graphite scrimmed rod. But I'll watch them grab a rod and shut it up halfway off and bring it up like that. Well, when you shut anything off that far, instead of getting that continuity of the bend, you put that added pressure. They're lucky that they're using fiberglass scrim, because if you use straight graphite, you now have a new shutoff point, which if that fish surges, it could break right at that point when you're holding it. So I see things on TV that I just shake my head and I go, huh. These guys should be mentoring people and showing them the proper way to fish, but very, very few of them can do that.
PNS Hornjack, that was a great question. Danny agrees. They do look like idiots. How's that?
Well,
Blue Skies, good to see you, my friend. It's been a while. He's got a question for you, Danny. What are good stick baits for surface bluefin tuna? Do you know any stick baits?
Now some of these halcos, these halcos that we were telling you guys about, that I've seen them used for trolling and everything else. But yeah, those, that's a great one. And you could throw those for the most part on a jig stick and get great distance out of it, So, and depending on the size too, I don't know that I want to hang a 200-pounder on a 9-foot rod, but it could be done. It'd be work. Better make sure you have a button on that reel. Usually everything 40 and above for me, I have 2-speeded, so even on my jig sticks. Yeah.
All right, pound that like button, everybody. We want to get up to 50 really fast here. We're at 36, and then we're going to go for 100. Got an hour into the show here. I can't believe an hour has gone by, Danny. It is flying by for me.
It always does. Yeah.
Christopher Martinez. Christopher, great to see you here, my friend. So he wants to know, he's dreaming now. He's thinking, hey, wait, this must have been a Dorado. So he wants to know, do Dorado rake the bait badly? Does it rake? He had a short bite locally yesterday, and it didn't look like a Cuda slash or bass squeeze.
Yeah, they got
the
pretty good little
pickup
teeth.
and run was different as well, more like a fast dart.
Yeah.
Could it
that
have been
sounds
a
kinda like
Dorado?
that. Could have been a Dorado. Yeah, they got that little teeth that'll scrape it up pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, there
Absolutely.
you go. Hey, Christopher, I'm calling it a Dorado now. I don't care what anybody else says.
A Cuda, you're going to get deeper cuts usually from their teeth too, just the way their teeth, are stratified in their mouth.
MJM is Mark. William, I have a Speedmaster. Great. Here he's talking to William. I have a Speedmaster 12 2-speed with braid and fluorocarbon top shot and have caught 50 to 70 pound fish all day long. They provide great customer service too, great value and performance. Talking about the Shimano Speedmaster.
Yeah.
So
Sure.
there you go. There's a
Absolutely.
testimonial from Mark. Good job.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
Greg Bates is back, and he's arguing with me. He says, I am not into the tequila. I don't drink, and I know what you're talking about. I'll bet you $1 that you have Tough Tex boots. Tough Tex boots. All right. Tonight on Facebook, I will take a photo of my boots, and I will post them on Facebook, Instagram, and what's the other thing we do? TikTok. And I will post them. And I will bet you that $1. All right? You're on. We're going to do that right now. I'll tell you that. All right. Jeremy says, good evening, guys. Jeremy, great to see you here. Brian Pearson, PNS Hornjack. I have been driven nuts after they hatch and start to grow for about a week. and they are 12 to 16-inch baby gators fishing topwater with little ploppers and spooks, but they something. So I think, yeah, he does get bugged by those alligators in Louisiana.
Gators?
Yeah. P&S Harnjack says, thanks, Brian, for the advice. William Padilla is here. He says, thank you. I appreciate. Got 10 with 65-pound braid and a top shot of 50 pink Yozuri fluoro. I also have an 8 with 50-pound braid and a 30 Daiwa fluoro. Is that a good match for any decent-sized game fish?
Yeah, well, you go to your 65, your 65, 50. Yeah, it gives you catch the majority of fish until you start going over 100 pounds for the most part. You can do it with 100. I mean, you can get 100-pounders with that, but it's better if you're targeting the big fish. It's better to have a big outfit too. It's gonna in the back of your head, you're gonna tell yourself, once you hang a big fish, why didn't I fire out a heavier rod? And usually, folks, you could watch guys getting bit, and if you see the guys fishing the heavier string and they're getting bit, fish the heavier string. If they're touchy, you can always scale down. But once you hook a big fish on light line, in your head now, what are you going to do? Am I going to break them off and go back and try to get one on a heavier outfit, or do I have to stay? I'm going to stay with what I have, and you usually stay with what you have, but your odds of landing it are reduced. So you can always scale down. You hit the water with something heavy, you can always scale down. If you don't get bit, you can scale down. But once you're hooked, it's hard. You can't go up unless you break that fish off, and retie or have it, re-gear and throw another bait out. So think about that. It takes you 1 second to throw out with heavier lines to start.
All right, William Padilla said all that gear that he just referenced, he just bought all that stuff. He's looking for rods now that won't break the bank, and I get that, man. It can be kind of tough on the budget sometimes, right?
Yeah, and I don't want to be arrogant about it, but it depends on your skill level too. Your skill level. If you're a novice, if you're not cognizant on your lift, you can go with a composite or a glass rod, to be safe, But if you're aware of your lifting and the angles and all that, and you have the 2-speed, you sure can put a fish on much quicker with that gear. The quicker recoiling graphite or composite a lot of times too.
All right, Brian Pearson is back again. Are not coming to do anything, but they will kill a bait and put holes in the bait. But the big gar is the bad ones, the bowfin. Okay. David Rosenthal, thanks. Mark, great setup. Just triple check the drag with the deckhands with a thank you tip. And trust me, you'll hang and land fish on the deck for fish bigger than school size. Look to get a 16. David Rosenthal is driving home, and he says, thanks for keeping me company. David, thanks for keeping us company. 45 likes. Let's make it 50. Hit that like button.
Oh, my God. It's climbing. Thank you, guys.
Absolutely. Brian Pearson, no problem. P&S Harnjack. There's a lot more I could tell you. My brother, you guys should definitely get in touch and talk more about it. And I would like to learn more about it also. Christopher Martinez says, thanks, guys, for feeding my local Dorado fantasy dreams. No longer a fantasy. We're calling that a Dorado, Christopher. That was a Dorado. It was not a fantasy. William Padilla is saying thanks to Mark. JC, Phil, see you next month on the Indy. All right, JC. I can't wait. 5 days on the Indy, October 20th. Go to independentsportfishing.com. I almost forgot. Go to independentsportfishing.com and jump on the Indy with us, the Independence. It's going to be a great trip, 5-day trip, $2,250. I'll be there to shoot a video. Great food, great crew, great friends on board, great fishing. I don't know how you can beat it. 5 days in October ought to be pretty good, don't you?
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
A lot of options.
A lot of different options.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, that sounds good to me. IndependentSportFishing.com. Chet Young, aloha, Phil and Danny from Honolulu. Chet It's so great to see you. And by the way, Chet, Nick Curcione said to say hello. He talked a lot about you with me just the other day. Getting back into the SoCal fishing scene. Haven't fished there since the 1980s. Danny, haven't seen you since the 80s on the Mustang. Man,
Oh my
that's
God!
a long time ago.
You know, Chet.
Do you remember Chet?
Oh yes,
So he
absolutely.
knew Nick Curcione really well.
Oh yeah. You know, one of the things that Chet did is we implemented some couple trips, things like that. We went down to Mexico. We did trips down to Mexico. Down
He's
to
a big
Cabo
fly
and
fishing
stuff
guy,
like
right?
that. Yeah, he does. Well, Chet does everything.
Yeah.
You know, he's a very talented fisherman, but it was his travel that did a lot of stuff, and he did T-shirts. Now, I got to tell you, you remember when the fish ties were in? You remember those fish ties?
Oh, yeah,
they
yeah,
had?
yeah.
Well, Chet, we put together a thing with Chet for a day at the docks, and he silk screened a T-shirt, but it had like a collar imprint and a yellow tail that hung down.
Oh, how bet you?
And then we rolled them up in white butcher paper so it looked like a piece of fish from the fish market.
Yeah.
Right? And we sold them out. This is that day in the docks years ago, and we had a ball. But Chet was a lot of fun. I loved doing the travel trips with him, and it was just a great guy. You can't beat him. Chet, looking forward to seeing you back. We did see him at a show recently, but yeah, definitely. You know, come on down.
All right, yeah, Chet's going to try to jump on one of our trips. Here.
Oh,
Chet, you
that'd
got to
be
jump
fun.
on that
That'd be
Independence
great.
trip, man. That would be
Yeah,
fantastic.
yeah.
Albert Ponce, Phil, I'll second you on the bet against Greg Bates. The boots you have are extra tough, and the model is the wheelhouse. There you go, Greg. I think we should up it to $5, Albert. What do you think? There you go, Greg. I'm going with Albert. I know he knows what he's talking about. Acme, Danny, how fun are the Lobina Ricos to fish at the river? You! I know Lobina in Spanish is bass,
Yeah.
freshwater bass.
Yeah.
So
Well,
you fish them at the
I'm
river?
not yeah, you can with the Ricos and stuff.
Do you know what he's talking about? This guy knows you.
No.
He knows every move you make. I can tell.
You know, when we used to fish the river, we used to fish there at night. You know, and this is, I don't know if
What
you guys.
river are we talking about?
Oh, the Colorado River.
Okay.
You know, there's a place called Oxbow and Cibola, and we would go down there and you'd sleep turn the air conditioning on in the motorhome, sleep during the day, and get out and fish in the evening and all night in the dark, fish
Yeah.
plastic worms. And there was a shop in Whittier called Wayne's Tackle, Wayne Kennedy. And so I can remember where Taka would fish with Wayne, and I would fish with Tommy Kennedy, his son. Now, Tommy was into tournament fishing back in those days, but we would take my boat because it was aluminum. You know, he had a big skeeter. But, you know, in that shallow water, fishing those little oxbows and stuff, you know, fishing plastic worms all night. But, God, we had a blast. We had a blast. But, yeah, I miss that.
I'll bet.
I miss that. That was a lot of fun.
Would you do it again if you had the opportunity?
Yeah, but you know, I don't know about fishing all night like I used to.
I
Yeah,
know,
but
I can't stay up
But it
with
was but it was a blast, you know, at the time.
Mark says, hey, William, look up the Daiwa Proteus rod. The one rod for most fish you'll catch below the 80-pound class. So there's another great tip from one of our great
There you go.
family
and
members.
they put out a lot of good stuff too. Daiwa's got some.
Jeremy
great stuff.
says, these conversations are so informative and you guys are so full of energy. Jeremy, thank you. You got to love it, right, Danny?
You know what? Listen,
These fans
we
are
would
great.
we would not be in the industry if I didn't love doing what I'm doing. You know, I've been doing this since I was 4 years old. You know, I get excited about every time I go fishing. I get excited about coming down to the studio here with Phil. Get excited just being around the boats and the water. It brings back memories of, you know, coming down here every night, running boats. And, you know, I wouldn't trade it for anything, folks. You know, it's been a great living. I have the opportunity to work in an industry where for 99% of the guys, they're excited, they're happy to come out in the water. So you got most of that beat right there, you know. And when you had and I was blessed to have good crews. They made it easy, and you know, they helped give give the boat and all of us a tremendous reputation. So you know, we're very blessed by being around unbelievable guys. You know, and plus our consumers, like I said. Yeah.
Jeremy, thanks for the kind words. Really appreciate you. Ahmad, what's the difference between cured bait and not cured bait?
Okay.
That's a great question because
Cured bait, like
great question.
cured bait, particularly like in San Diego. You know, I got to tell you, there's no operation in the world that beats what the Irvinghams have down there. You
Oh
know,
my
Mark
God.
and Paul do a great job up here. But to have the amount of receivers, to have that flow going in and out of San Diego Bay, and to be able to put, bins of bait, lock them up, cure them out to where the weak stuff dies out, and you have nothing but strong baits. And so when you're loading them on a long range trip, you know, that stuff is hard to catch because it's cured. It's super strong. They've got a tremendous current in there.
How do you cure it?
And they're plenty of food. Well, you just, through time, you could feed them. But the weak stuff will die out. And the die out will go down and go through the slits on the receivers, and you have nothing but hot green baits.
It's kind of survival of the fittest.
Oh,
kind of
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's why you call them curing it out. The strong survive.
Right.
And so by the time you're loading those things, when they're cured out, whether it's Danes or Chobies, that stuff stays hot, and you could load it lighter, and that keeps them from banging, in the tank. But it's the only place in the world that I know that they have, the bait operation like they do down there in San Diego. I haven't seen anything that's comparable at all.
Not even close.
It's a science, and they do the water barrels, so there's no net mesh pursing those things up for the most part. Well, they purse it up, but they'll do a lot of water barrels, so you're less scales knocked off of them. It's just a tremendous operation. That's part of what you're paying for your trip there, folks, for the best bait that you're going to see anywhere in the world, So that's a huge blessing when you fish around and you consider, the bait that you get out of the San Diego receivers compared to anywhere else. Of course, our bait up here is great too. They do a great job, but to be able to have that, the receivers down there where we can cure them out, not even close to anything, That's a luxury that we've had down there in San Diego.
That is for sure. P&S Hornjack. Danny, do you know why your friend Russ Iser named it Spectra? What is the origin of that word, Spectra? Is there some special meaning behind it? I understand mono means single strand fiber, but Spectra, what's that all about?
Spectra was a braid, I never got that. I never asked Russ about that. I mean, we just started here. It's funny you should say that.
Hit that like button, everybody.
Can you see that, Phil?
Yeah.
On the camera?
Yeah.
Okay. That's Russ Iser
Hold
and
it
I.
right there for a second. Yeah, that looks good.
Okay, that's Russ and I when we promoted Spectra. I think it was in 1981 or 82. And we, for 30-something weeks, I would pick Russ up in Gardena. He lived in Gardena. Pick him up. We'd go up to the studio in Glendale and promote this thing called Spectra. And once again, Russ changed fishing. That Spectra line, not only here but worldwide, it changed fishing everywhere. It also, a lot of you remember the early long-range guys filling up these big 50 internationals, 80 internationals with mono, and guys still getting spooled because of the diameter of the line. Well, the Spectra was so small, you could never run out of line. And back in the old days, they'd have to sit there and clip on, a backup unit, throw that rod and reel over, or put a guy in a skiff, which was dangerous and everything else, chase them around in a skiff. Sometimes they'd go off far enough where you couldn't even see them, So Russ changed the game for all of us and for a lot of different areas, and not just in our long-range fishing and stuff like that, which is tremendously has impacted us having the ability to fish a smaller, more powerful reel that's two-speeded now. But here's one that Ray Beadle, I fished with Ray. We did a TV show with Jose Wahebe on the Fortune once, and Ray's line class, fly rod line class records could have never happened with Dacron backing because Dacron absorbs water. And when you're fishing the lighter tip, especially on a marlin and some of the bigger fish, just the line drag alone would break the line. So thanks to Russ's Spectra, it also allowed them to break a lot of fly rod records. So the impact was not just it was worldwide, but it was huge. And as you all know, we've taken that and everybody has tweaked it and done different things. But because of Russ's Spectra, it's changed our game completely. And I can't tell you, and I won't tell you because it'll embarrass some of these people that put their fingers down on it and said we'll never use that stuff, blank, blank, blank. Well, guess what? They've always had to eat crow. And I make sure they keep eating it when I see them because I'm that way, very defensive of Russ, and he was right, and everybody else that doubted him was wrong. End of story. And you guys know that now that everybody's implementing that. So.
All right, good stuff. Perfect, Danny. And we can hear the electricity outside. There's, a bunch of anglers getting
that's
ready
what
to
happens.
jump on the Amigo and the Freedom tonight. And we're here at 22nd Street Landing. It's really exciting because of the great fishing that's going on. Thank you all for joining us. We still have a lot of questions. Danny, I know you had another topic in mind, but these people want to pick your brain, and I don't blame them. They're learning so much. Hit that like button. Let's get it to 75. You got it to 50 for me. Thanks for doing that. Let's keep rocking and rolling. Christopher Martinez. Hey, guys, I've got 2 of the CalStar, I'm assuming boomer trolling rods, but they have no line ratings. One is stiffer than the other. Any ideas on what pound I should be fishing on them? Both are around 5. I would take those to your local tackle store.
Yeah.
Right?
And a boomer, probably 80 to 100,
Yeah.
in that range, especially if they're trolling rods. Hey, I do want to go back
Go ahead.
one more to the...
Did I miss something?
No. But I want to talk to you about Spectra.
Yeah.
So, and I'll give you some heads up. When Russ first came out with some of them, they were very crude. Came out with a 3 fiber and a 4 fiber, which was very thin. But Russ had the guts to fish that straight to hook, and he went with Bill Poole, and he would hook the tuna straight to there, and yeah, it could cut through mono, it was very thin. You had to be careful with your fingers too because it was the 3 and 4 carrier. But now you look at stuff. I've got some stuff that we brought back from Japan that was made. It takes virtually an hour to weave 1 meter of this 16-strand hollow Spectra, which is phenomenal. And you're gonna see line like that too. But it's extremely expensive because it takes 1 hour to do 1 meter of this thing. And there's 16 spools that are intertwining like this around in a circle on this machine. And in 1 hour it does 1 meter, so that much line. So it tells you how much labor is. I remember going there to the factory out in the country in Japan, to this, it was called Hayami, and watching those machines. They go day and night, hundreds of these things doing that. And there's a Japanese custom, it's called omiyage, where you bring something over. Well, I found out the president of the company was a wine drinker, so I had my son-in-law who has a wine shop in Long Beach, Adam, the Wine Crush. And I told Adam, hey, can you make a beautiful 6-pack? Give me, your best wines. I'm going to take it over to Japan with me because I found out he was a wine drinker. In return, he gave me these 1,000-yard spools of the Spectra. Phil, these 1,000-yard spools of the 16 braid.
Oh my God.
130 and the 100 cost was $1,200 each.
Oh my God.
So I mean, obviously they only went on my big accurates, you name them, just my special reels. But it's so concentric and it's hollow, but it's so strong. It's just beautiful. But I just want to reiterate, we went from Russ's 3 and 4 carrier stuff that over time constantly got improved and better, and now it's unbelievable, some of the stuff we have now. You could take that hollow and slide it and serve it where the mono will go through the inside of the hollow, and you whip it, and it's like one piece. It's just beautiful. So anyway,
PNS Hornjack. Danny, have you ever caught or fished for paddlefish?
No, I never have.
What are they? I don't even know what they are.
Yeah, they got a big. They got a big kind of obnoxious looking.
Yeah.
Like, no, I've never caught them.
Where do you catch those things? Do
You know,
know?
I don't even know. Because I haven't targeted them, but I think they get them down. There's places down south where they have them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tyler Tanaka, who is a great guy, and I owe an apology to. I will explain in a minute. But he's here. He sends $5 into the show. We really, really appreciate when you do that, Tyler. It means a lot to us. Danny and Phil, hello. Also sending my thanks for the video with Kiyomi and sharing his story about Manzanar. Let me apologize to Tyler, then I'm going to let you talk about that show.
Sure.
Tyler, you sent me a beautiful email, and I've been meaning to get back to it since the time I received it. It was heartfelt. You poured a lot of emotion into that about that show and how much it made you tear up, actually. And, man, I felt the same way. I felt like I was in the presence of someone really great with Kiyomi and Danny, for that matter, and your friend Danny.
And Jeff.
So, yeah, I wanted to just tell you that, Tyler. I apologize for not getting back to you sooner. Danny, what a show that was.
Oh, yeah. You know, and that's part of the history. I want to make sure everybody, you know, we do the pilgrimage when we go up the Sierras, and oftentimes we'll swing in just to show the kids and remind them what my dad and my grandparents went through, you know, and how they resolved it, you know, and there was no ill will. But I mean, you know, the story about the fishing story was part of our roots coming out of Southern California, because we would do that, you know, that journey up to the Sierras opening day year after year, and then fish quite a bit during the summertime. And, you know, that I'm as much a trout guy as anything. I mean, I cut my roots, you know, walking the streams and, you know, and fishing up there from the time I was 4 years old. So that's a big part of it culturally for a lot of us too. you
Yeah,
know?
definitely.
Yeah.
Tyler says, and same gentleman that just sent that $5 and mentioned the show, Spectra is the brand name of the fiber. That's what Honeywell, the manufacturer, named it. All right, thanks you for that. Brian Pearson, PNS Harnjack, yes, we could do that if Friedman, that's me, I think, will help us get together to help us exchange phone numbers if you want to ask questions or talk. Hey, Brian, no problem. Send me a text and just make sure you explain what it's about, because I get a lot of texts every single day. So, Brian, send me a text, 657-227-6459. And then same thing with you, PNS Harnjack. Send me a text, and then I'll put you guys together, okay? I've totally screwed that up, but you understand what I'm trying to say, I think, right? And I'm not into the tequila tonight. Thinking about it, but not yet. Albert Ponce, hey guys, do you know about how big a fish can you bring up from the depths with the new Daiwa electric reels? That's a good question. Thinking about getting one or two to target baqueta in Bahia de Los Angeles. You love fishing baqueta.
Oh my
There's
God!
nothing
I love
better
it,
to
Albert.
eat.
There's nothing better than baqueta. And you know, leave it to Daiwa. I'm sure they put together a great reel. And you know what I've been told, and this is talking with Steve Yatomi, who I fish with down there, and Steve says you could have them on 100 pound. You get them 40 feet off the bottom, and you're grinding in low, and they'll put their heads down and rock you. After
Wow.
getting them 40 feet off the bottom.
Really?
So the baqueta not only are the tastiest, but they're pretty mean.
They're tough, huh?
SOBs, yeah, they're tough. But absolutely my favorite eating fish.
Those electric reels, they drop down in 1,000 feet of
Oh
water, don't
yeah,
they?
yeah. There's no problem. It just and might be something that I may have to do. But the problem is then you got to bring the battery packs and everything else too. So
Yeah.
But we have to think about it as we get older.
Yeah, really. Kim Herbert, paddlefish are snagged with large treble-weighted hooks. They are plankton feeders. We catch a lot here in Missouri. Interesting.
Okay.
We got to come back there and do that
Snagger,
with
huh?
you, Kim. I'm all over that, man. Tyler Tanaka, Dyneema. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no, that's good.
Made by DSM is the fiber brand that is a competitor to Spectra.
Right.
There you go.
Right.
Yep. Albert Ponce,
listen.
but curious how big of a fish these electric reels can muscle up. What do you think? Don't they use them on swordfish? Or do they?
Oh, I'm sure they can. Yeah,
Yeah.
especially for the deep water drops.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think big, like
Yeah,
over 100
yeah.
pounds, right, Danny?
Yeah.
At least that's what I'm thinking. All right, Chet Young, Nick Curcione's buddy. Nick is still the same crazy guy he ever was, Danny and Chet, let me tell you. Funny guy. I loved him. He was my college professor. So I walked into my sociology class at Loyola Marymount University, and this guy's talking about, catching an albacore. And I'm going, man, I'm in the right class.
That's it.
And then my geography professor at Loyola was a guy named Pete Hoffman. Same thing, man. He's all over, fishing and everything else. So we all went fishing together for many, many years. So that was good. Chad says, I remember fishing with Georgie Mio when he got his scanning sonar. He was the only one that had it. Danny, do you remember Steve or Bud? I can't remember if they were on the Mustang or New Hustler too.
Well, both those guys. Well, Steve for sure. Tanaka. Well, he was also on the Mustang because that's Taka's son, and Marty Tanaka, But yeah, George was way ahead of everybody with the scanning sonar. The only other guy that had, and George had it when it was a black and white sonar, and so did Ray Montero on the Holiday, and they were the only two that had it at the time. The only problem was that, and some of the commercial guys, you had to have a guy pretty much monitoring it, the way the sweep was on it. It was different when we got those first colors from Westmar because the image would stay up. It would do its sweep, but the color image would stay up. And then when you hit your targets, they generally lit up in red, and then you had a thing where you could send it out and find out. It would triangulate the exact distance and everything else. So if you're swinging around on a school of fish, you knew that it was 50 yards or 100 yards. You'd make that turn and throw the bait on them, and generally bingo. And that was a big difference because other than that, everybody was straight line trolling. So, I got to tell you, George was really one of the big innovators in this industry, and I look forward to him. And I was thankful that a lot of times during the week I'd go and help him out as a second ticket, and I learned quite a bit from George too. Particularly when it came to the scanning sonars.
All right, good stuff. William Padilla says, I really do learn a lot from Danny, and damn that Phil. No, he's not saying that. And damn, and Phil. And also from the wonderful fishing community we have here. William, you're part of that community, and it's so true, man. All the people here on this little family we've established, Danny, are like you. They're good people, hardworking people, and they're not out to screw the next guy. They're out to help them. So, William, thank you.
And everybody here, everybody that's listening in, including myself. I mean, if I can't learn something from what's going on here too, and you're questioning things like that, then I'm not listening hard enough, because there's always something to learn, and there's nobody that knows it all, But the fact that our guys, and I've reiterated this before, we come from, I would say overall, a much more technical environment than most people in the country, with Hollywood, with aerospace, with, the Caltech, JPL, you name it. Our society, our people, our fishermen have always innovated stuff. And it could start from Carl Newell with the aluminum spool, which changed reels forever. When I talked to Penn at shows before, when they had the plastic spools and the heavy metal spools that wouldn't cast, and the plastic spools that imploded when you hooked a big fish, and their answer to the Southern California crowd was, "Yeah, we're not changing our tooling just for you guys. We sell every reel we make." Well, guess what? Thanks to Carl Newell, he blew by everybody and changed the reels forever. And he had enough guys that had access to CNC machines to CNC custom frames and everything, and before you knew it, who led the world with reels? It was our guys, because of our mentality, and all of you guys out there, And same with Spectra, same with everything else. We got the guys that are constantly thinking, changing, doing their homework. I learned from you guys today. You guys learn from us, and it's something that you don't. Our crowd is definitely an unbelievable crowd. We like to see if the guys nationally. I'm sure that they could learn a lot from listening to a lot of you guys out there too. I know for a fact that even in the bass crowd, the freshwater bass crowd, I look, and like I mentioned before, we're still years ahead of them with a lot of the stuff. Just watch them fish, and tell me that when they're high sticking like this, why would you do that? You hold it up here and the fish will dance around and jump. Well, you know what? When they jump, that's when you're going to get them to unbutton their lures and everything. So, by showing them how to pull with more pressure, you get them on, quicker, and you don't have any incidents of breakage when you have it at the right angles. So, when these guys are up doing this stuff in the fighting fish, it's telling me that they're basically ignorant of the fact that you have less power and control when you're up there. So that's, it tells me a great deal about their mentality.
All right, everybody, hit that like button. Get us to 75. But of course, some people are doing that because they just don't know any better. They need to be taught.
Yeah, well, that's why we have this show.
Yeah, exactly.
But unfortunately, most of you guys, they get it. So
Yeah.
yeah.
PNS Hornjack says they catch paddlefish here on the Missouri River in Montana. Just in case you didn't know, your mighty Missouri River starts here in Montana. Love to fish the mighty Mo. That sounds good to me. Eric says, Danny, do captains use mammals like whales or dolphins to locate tuna? I went on the producer on Labor Day and we followed some and we got into a wide open bite for about 30 minutes.
Sure. It's like drafting, right? They get behind the wheel, they break the current or whatever it is, and they could just track them. They're just using them to stay in their wake. And we've seen that a lot where we would intersect when we're trolling, intersect behind a school, not in front, but behind them usually, and we throw bait sometimes, and then in the later days when we had the scanning sonars, you could see the spots of fish below them or off to the side or whatever. They would use them to kind of draft. So yeah, many instances that we did utilize them.
Dan Smith says, hey, Albert, Kim got a baqueta outside of La Jolla last year. Not real big, like 15 pounds. It turned out to be a great eating fish. Very rare to get them up here in San Diego. Pretty darn rare indeed,
That is
right?
very rare. I've never seen that, but wow, that's phenomenal.
Leave it to Dan and Kim. I'm
Yep,
telling you,
that's awesome.
That's another benefit of the carnivore diet. You catch baqueta off La Jolla. Ask Kim. It's true.
Perfect.
Everything
That's
works
awesome.
better with the carnivore diet. Cue Ball is giving us some applause. We give it right back to you. And William Padilla said he meant to say Sam De La Torre. Sam is number one.
Oh yeah, Sam's
he's
a great
an
guy.
awesome guy.
He's awesome.
Yeah. Thank
Yep.
you, William. Thank you for being part.
But don't feel sorry for him. He's out there killing fish right now while we're sitting here in the studio.
And William asked if he could find a rod. I forget what it was, but MJM is Marcus answering him saying Turner's. Look at Turner's. Wow, Willie, I have a Tacoma 1200 and I use a battery conversion for my Milwaukee 18-volt batteries to 12-volt. A battery will last me about 2 hours of fish for rockfish. So there you have it. That gives you an idea of how long that works.
There you go.
And wow, Willie, how big a fish can you get on those things? Tyler, Tanaka, Danny, what techniques do you recommend to get past wide open Dorado down to the yellowfin underneath? That is a very good question. My kids were just on a yacht, Danny, and they couldn't get through it. They could not get through the Dorado.
Try busting through it with a yo-yo jig, a chrome yo-yo, and
That's a great
having
idea.
it sink out. And even if you don't, you could go to a single hook, because if you do hook a dodo, it's easy to shake off. Grab the jig and just shake them if you don't want them. But it'll sink out much quicker. A bomb down below them.
All right, very good. Albert Ponce, Dan, I bet that was a great dish. I'm thinking about heading back to the Bay of LA in late October, early November. According to the guy, I know baqueta is down about 600 feet. So we'll see if I can get one. You can get one, definitely,
Oh
man.
yeah.
Do it,
And
Albert.
they'll come up a little bit, but yeah, 600 feet's pretty much a standard depth for a lot of those. So.
Hey, Mark says, Phil, when's your next full day, overnight, or 1.5 day charter? I'm jumping on this year to support the Friedman Adventures family. We've got a whole slew of trips. Unfortunately, we are sold out of everything as it stands right now, Mark, except we just added that 5-day trip on the Independence. That might be more than you're looking for, but that goes October the 20th, $2,250. More information at independencesportfishing.com. But we're on board the Apollo on Thursday night. Then we are on the El Patron here out of 22nd Street, landing on September the 15th. Then we have two 2-day trips on the Amigo, and then we're on board the Independence. So, man, next year, jump on there a little bit early. We would love to have you, unless you can jump on that Independence trip. That'll be great. Dan Smith, yes, Albert, it was really delicious. First one we've ever seen. Very slimy on the outside. Hey, good luck. You guys will get them. Very slimy on the outside. Sounds like Greg Bates to me, actually. He's kind of slimy on the. No, Greg, I'm only kidding you because you lost that bet with Albert and I. That's why I'm saying that. And Albert says, Wild Willie, thank you for the info. That's a nice trick. I haven't thought about doing something like that. Kim Herbert says, I had to laugh when cured bait was brought up. Fuji on the Daiwa would scoop half a receiver dump feed, lock the receiver, and seine the next. That was ducking the pinhead anchovy sessions. So I think he went to a Hey, what's up, man?
What's going on?
Not much. What are you doing? You want to?
I got to load up real quick. And
All right.
Hopefully, if you're still on,
Jason.
you guys going to stay on for a little bit?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, I just got to load the stuff out of the truck.
Don't worry. That's Jason from the Amigo, the galley cook, who's a great friend of the show, and hopefully he'll be able to sit down with. He'll be able to sit down with Danny here and tell you what they did on the Amigo today. That would be a first-hand report for you.
Absolutely.
If there's any last-minute openings, yeah, definitely. We will do that. Israel de la Cruz. Philip, are you a fan of dry-aged meat? I haven't done all that much of it, a little bit of it.
Andy said it's phenomenal.
We're talking about dry-aged tuna, right?
Yes.
You are, right?
Yes.
I've heard about that,
Yeah,
Israel.
I'm going to have to try it because he's telling me that's the biggest thing now in Japan, and what he's implementing, he's teaching that now too. And that's supposedly the stuff,
I've heard, man.
Yeah,
I got to try
I
it.
hear it's phenomenal.
Who was it? Oh, it was, what's that guy's name? Maui, the big guy. Big. Remember he came in here?
Yes.
Maui was going to bring some in one of these days.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
well, you and I will try that.
Yeah,
you
absolutely.
were here
I
when
heard
he
that
came
too,
in.
yeah.
He's the guy that threw that 180-pound bluefin on his shoulder and
Yeah.
walked it out to his
Yes.
car. Oh, my God. That's pretty good, man.
I love it.
Dry aged meat. I'll try anything, Israel. Almost anything. Richard Escalante, El Patron, 9:15 overnight. I'll see you there. Good luck. Hey, Richard, that is a 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. trip. I'm not sure if you're signed up on it or not. If you are, we'll see you here. Dan Smith. Danny, have you had a chance to fish in Japan? Kim and I watch a lot of YouTubers in Japan, and the fishing looks fantastic. And they are very into jig fishing. That's for sure.
I never got a chance to fish there. We did fishing business over there with manufacturers and stuff. But there's things that they develop that they're out there, and they're very much ahead of us. They're very particular about their specs and things like that. I mean, they are absolutely possessed when it comes to perfection on lures and things like that. I did go into tackle shops. I went absolutely nuts, even though I didn't know what the stuff was because I can't read it. I don't speak it. But their stuff was so cool, I just bought it. And I go, this is cool. For whatever reason, I would buy it because they have a lot of innovative things when it comes down to it. So, I would love to make a trip over there, even to fish some of the freshwater Lake Biwa, where they, caught that world record. But, it's an amazing place, and they are possessed with their fishing. And I guess you would be when you're surrounded by water. So it's a good deal.
Absolutely. What's up, Nick? Do you want to say hi to everybody on our show or what, man? Nick from the Amigo. It's good to see you, man. All right.
The crew's all
I'll be done with this
all
in a little
pumped
bit. I'll
up,
come
huh?
see you before you leave.
cool.
All the boys from the Amigo are stopping in to say hi, and we really
Awesome.
appreciate it. Great guys. As always, seeing all these fantastic people. Tyler Tanaka wants to know, anybody know when Sam gets back from Cedros? I need to order some oatmeal cookies. What's that all about? I'm not even,
I have no idea.
went right over my head, Tyler.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
I
yeah.
think he'll be back in the shop Monday. That's my guess. I think he's down there in Cedros for 5 days or so. So he should be back Monday for sure. And then hopefully he'll be ready to go with a Tuesday show, because Danny and I are dying to hear about what happened at Cedros, how many sea bass he caught, how many yellows he caught.
Yeah.
How was the inshore bite? Did you do any surf fishing? I talked to guys who do surf fishing now. Eddie Leland who needs your thoughts and prayers.
Oh,
He
my God,
remains
yeah,
in
yeah.
his battle with cancer, but he tells me, man, caught some of the biggest yellowfin croaker. And
Oh,
he just
wow.
never stops fishing.
Yeah, yeah.
He
That's
just keeps
awesome.
going. And he does
That
need
is so awesome.
your thoughts and prayers right now.
Absolutely.
Really needs them.
Absolutely.
Okay? I don't know
Yeah.
how to be any more clear about it. Yeah, oatmeal cookies. Hey, where's our dinner tonight, Danny? Are you hungry? Can somebody send down
I'm always hungry. You know that.
send down a prime rib, can you? I like mine rare. How do you eat yours?
Yeah,
go ahead.
I eat it. We forgot about this William Padilla.
William
The
Padilla.
Hayabusa hooks.
Oh my God,
Yes.
William! Forgive
You know,
me, thank God.
A very good friend of mine that I miss him. He was one of the greatest guys. Is Richard Hightower, and he used to rep Hayabusa hooks,
I
and
knew that
I
guy.
used them for a while too.
Yeah.
And they were great hooks. I
Yeah.
mean, they were great. There's a lot of them that were out there that were phenomenal. But you know,
So his question is: are Hayabusa hooks any good? If so,
Oh,
what
yeah.
style and sizes
Yeah.
would you recommend for schooling tuna and dorado?
well, the standard. I can't remember the name, but most of the hooks were good. They were all comparable. You know, typical Japanese hooks. You know, it's funny. If you go to Osaka in Japan, there's Hayabusa, there's Owner, Gamakatsu, and these guys are all in the same area in Osaka, virtually, you know. And I think there's Daiichi, there's a couple of, you would go nuts. And yet some of the most secretive things are done. Like this, one of the things that I heard about was they had the tempering system, you know, how the hooks are tempered. And from what I heard was Gamakatsu had some of the best tempering systems on that. And, you know, I told you that there was a point there, I call him professor, but Dave Oshima used to weigh the hooks. I don't know anybody that's quantified those things, but those little lightweight, you know, number twos and stuff with the rings
Yeah.
that I fish for albacore and everything, which
Right.
are for albacore are unbeatable, or for touchy bluefin that are smaller, you know, 30-pound or less, you know, those things weighed 350 milligrams with a ring. Now, how many guys have weighed those things? And it just so happens it was not an Owner, but it was a Hayabusa that we weighted against, and a Mustad, and they were very similar, but the same size hook and a Mustad, 450 milligrams. So it's 100 milligrams more. Now, you can't feel it, and plus that was without a ring. So, you know, when it's touchy, I'll go to that Gami just for that, for albacore, or
Yeah.
light line bluefin, for smaller bluefin, not bigger bluefin, because I straightened them out on our freedom trip, you know. But there's little subtlety things like that that make all the difference in the world when you're fishing touchy bluefin, you know, fluorocarbon, the hooks, you know, and it's going to be just the hooks because you're not putting on a sink or anything when you're fly lining for a bluefin. So, you know, there's little tricks like that make big differences in your production when you get on the boat and you get out there competing with guys. So just keep that in the back of your head too.
All right, everybody. I just saw Chef Jason from the Amigo go by a second ago, and he's loading the stuff on board the Amigo right now. And he's going to come up here and tell you how their day went if the show goes on long enough. We'll see how that all goes. So we'll keep you informed with regard to all of that.
Well, 13 minutes and we're at 2, right?
Oh, my God.
Oh,
I'm
my
loving
God.
it. Now, Israel De La Cruz is one of the nicest, most giving guys. I've read this comment. Man, now, Danny, my mouth is watering. Tomahawk steak coming to you on Thursday night, straight out of our steakhouse. Hopefully, the Apollo crew will be able to cook it for you. I will beg them, and I will give you a big hug when I see you. My mouth is watering. And I know now on the carnivore diet, that's all I eat is meat, but man, I love it. And that sounds so good. I absolutely can't thank you enough. Can't wait to sink my teeth into that. That sounds so good. You're at one of the casinos, Israel. Which one is that? You might as well give your place a plug here on the Friedman Adventures show. While I read Jeremy's comment, Israel, thank you so much. I was stationed in Japan for 3 years, but I wasn't big into fishing like I am now. I feel like I missed something cool. You might have, right?
Yeah, they're into it, and of course, you know, being on an island, but they got into it. They now share the largemouth world record too. And you know, I'm watching, like I said, I watch some of these tournaments and stuff on the weekends, and they got a lot of these young kids coming from Japan, and they excel tremendously. But
Yeah.
again, there's a different mentality, and I was looking last week, out of the top 10, 3 of them, you know, were in the top 10 in this, you know, one of the Bassmasters tournaments there, and you just look, because they're pretty well focused, and they get a lot of practice over there too. But yeah, it's a mentality that these guys have, and the way that, you know, that their mind works. You know, a lot of them are very technically astute too with electronics, but every facet of their tackle is dialed in. You know, so that's a lot of stuff we, you know. Well, it's no different from what we did out here when we were chasing those big trophy fish.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah,
we had
yeah.
everything, all your ducks had to be lined up. Everything had to be done just right. Hooks sharpened. I mean, everything. We went through the extra lengths. Curing our baits, you know. There's a lot of stuff, just like we did on boats.
Oh, right, exactly, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know what that guy's talking about, man. He's down there in Japan or over in Japan, and never got to do. I lived in Costa Rica for a year and fished a couple times. Is all. I was busy doing, you know, teaching kids and doing what I was doing. So, and it was a new experience for me. But yeah, I mean, Costa Rica back in, I was there in the late '70s, '80s, man.
Yeah.
Imagine how the fishing was.
Oh,
Oh my God! I mean, it's still good, but
unbelievable.
yeah, I mean that sounds good. Andrew Deal says, "Great show, guys," and then he tops it off with a $10 bill. Andrew, I'm going to take that and buy you a cup of coffee at our favorite coffee place one of these days, man. Good to see you. Really, really appreciate it. Miss you. Haven't seen you for way too long. Tyler Tanaka, Danny, when it's a shy bite, do you change hook size before line size? Or vice versa? Tyler's always thinking. That's a great question.
Sometimes both.
Yeah.
Sometimes both. If you're going to scale down, you might as well scale down, you know. And, you know, a lot of it's going to depend, Tyler, on the size of the fish, you know. Sometimes it comes to bite you, you know, you just don't know. I mean, I look at the Freedom trip, and Phil can tell you, we pulled up, we anchored up. A lot of the old guys were nailing the fish right away. And here I'm using, and they're using mono, okay? And I was using Spectra to a short top shot of fluoro. And a 9-foot rod, that Gamakatsu hook, and I'm outcasting, you know, all these other captains. My bait takes off, and no bite. And then it just dawns on me, what a dummy I am. You know, these are bluefin. They got the best eyes in the business. So my 25 had a little longer shot of mono on it. On the 20, I had no mono because I'm used to fishing that 9-footer with a short top shot of fluorocarbon straight to Spectra because I'm making a long enough cast, you know. But when you're competing with a bunch of other guys and they're throwing mono, they're seeing my Spectra. So I went to the 25 and did get bit on that. So my 30 was the only one where I had a longer length of monofilament. So I had fluorocarbon, mono, and then my Spectra. But I had, you know, quite a bit of mono on it, probably about 40, 50 yards. And then I got bit. And I was still using that light gummy. Only problem was I didn't hang the 20-something pounders like everybody was hanging. I was hanging one that just walked off, and I'm going,
Yeah.
what is wrong with this picture, you know? And as it turns out, that was the outfit that I used all day to get those, that 60 to, I hooked, nothing was that 60 to 100 pound stuff. But I had to change my hooks. I had to upsize my hooks because I straightened out both an owner Gorilla Light and a Gamakatsu. I ended up going with a 4X Mustad. So, you know, you're going to find, you know, that learning curve, I mean, I was bang, bang. I was getting thumped on the head every time I straightened out a hook until I finally had to go up and step up to a 4X, you know, with the 30. And it just so happened that, you know, it was a lucky combination, and they wouldn't eat 40. So you had to be able to do it with 30.
There's a gentleman out here.
Yeah.
He walked by and he saw that we have raffle tickets to help send clothing to Mexico. And he's just throwing money in there and doing that. What's your
Wow.
name, by the way, my friend?
Gene.
Gene what?
So,
Gene So?
Yeah.
Gene So is his name.
God bless you, bud.
God bless you, man.
Absolutely.
You want to come out here and be on the camera for a second? Come out here. Go right over. Gene, thank you very much, man. What boat are you on tonight?
I'm on an Amigo.
How'd you know about the raffle? Or you just saw it when you walked by?
Well, I mean, quite frankly, my wife can tell you. I probably watch the show daily in the morning.
I love this
Oh,
guy,
awesome.
man.
Hey, come on camera here.
Yeah,
come on
out here,
in.
Gene.
Show what
Let's
a good,
say hello to your
good guy,
wife.
man.
How you doing?
Thank you. Phil appreciates it.
Let's see.
but
Here, I'll pick
yeah.
this up so we can see you.
Yeah, there you
actually.
go, man.
Gene, you're
Perfect.
number one, man. Thank you.
Awesome.
Well, you know, I watch the
Thank
show
you. It's
daily.
going to such a good
Thank you. I
cause. Chris.
appreciate that.
Going to
It's a
such
bad
a great
habit,
cause.
but,
It's a good
Not a
habit. What
bad
are you
habit.
talking
Yeah,
about?
yeah. That's what
Hey,
it's all about.
I gotta
man.
shake your hand here, man.
I
Yeah.
want to shake your hand. You did a good
Awesome.
job with that, so,
Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you.
So,
That's
Thank you.
awesome. I love that. I love that. We got
Oh,
guys
man.
with the
Yeah.
Gene, that means a lot to both of
No.
big
us.
hearts. Absolutely.
you just doing a
Thank you
wonderful
so much.
job.
That's
I mean,
awesome.
I watch the show daily. It's just,
Cool.
you know.
Well, anytime.
That means a lot to us.
I'm usually here on Thursdays though, but
Yeah. And
but yeah.
And I'm
But
back
Phil's
on,
always yeah.
You know, Monday to Sunday.
You got
at
it.
Sunset. So.
Hey, Gene,
That's
You know?
right. That's right.
thank you, man.
No worries.
Appreciate it.
Thanks
really
again.
do.
One more time, bud. Thank you.
You're the man, Gene. I appreciate it, man. Give me a hug.
Yeah.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you so much.
sir.
These are the kind of people that are the Friedman
You know what?
Adventure family members. Man,
Can't-
what a great
you
guy.
can't get blessed any more than that.
You cannot.
You know.
You
No,
cannot.
you got all the good. You got all the good guys. All
Thank you
guys.
again, man.
Thank you.
Guys, awesome, man. What a little break in the show, but I got to tell you that
That's
was
okay.
fantastic. Really
You
love
earned
it.
that.
All right, let me. I don't think we're gonna get out of here before 3 hours is up. All right, Wild Willie, we use rubber core sinkers for the albacore to get the bait down. What do you think about doing that for bluefin tuna?
I'm not a big fan of rubber cores over the years.
Seen too
you
many
know,
breaks?
this one. Yeah.
Yeah, right. They twist them on.
Yeah,
and
you
on.
know, you could do. I know it's expensive to do, but you could rubber band them. You know, nowadays, and we've been doing that for the bluefin, where you rubber band them on. You know, of course, you sacrifice the sinker, but that's one less thing. Now, if you have it tied on with knots, that's two connections that you got to be concerned about. So if you have it rubber banded, usually once you hook a fish, it'll break away. And yeah, it costs your sinker, but what's that? Instead of having 3 different connections, you got one to your hook. So play the odds.
All right, Dan Smith says, yes, Japan is also fishing big tournaments like the Great Amazon World Fishing Tournament, and they are doing some serious freshwater fishing also. Israel De La Cruz says, he's at the Verona Casino. Have you seen Scott Buchert running around there recently? It's called the Oaks Steakhouse. He's going to text me tomorrow a video of the steak. You're killing me.
geez.
Israel, I'm going to be the if this is as good as I think it's going to be, I will become the official spokesman of the Oak Steakhouse at the Verona Casino. I will eat that steak on camera, and no one will show more genuinely. I don't know what it'll be.
Yeah,
I'll
you
be
won't
salivating
even, you won't even
everywhere.
need a knife.
Yeah. Hey, Israel, you're killing me, man. I love it. Absolutely love it. PNS. Harjack says, tomahawk is the most overrated. Oh, thanks a lot, man. Overrated steak. LOL, fancy and fun to look at, but waste of money. Well, this is a generous, beautiful offer from a dear friend of ours, so I'm in. He does love a good ribeye steak, however. Chet Young. Chet is back. There's a bass lake just outside of Kyoto. There's a guide website to fish it. I wanted to fish it, but they never replied to my email request. Maybe you need to correspond in Japanese. Have you heard? I'm sure they have English translations there,
Well,
Chet.
they'd have to. I mean, because I don't speak a lick of Japanese.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
except for some of the words I'd get smacked on the head for from my dad.
All right, Gizmo EE says, may God bless him with lots of fish. Absolutely. The gentleman that just came in here, I'm
Absolutely,
with
yep.
you 100%. Steve says, good evening, Phil and Danny. Have you fished Charlie Brown hooks? Danny.
No, Charlie Brown.
I've heard of them. In fact, somebody asked that question, I think, to Sam. And as I remember, he said they're great.
Oh,
they're
okay,
really
yeah.
a great hook.
I've never used them. Never even heard about them. To
Yeah.
be honest. I mean, I'm a creature of habit. I've got big stacking containers full of hooks all labeled out for different, different purposes and everything else. But I have not used those hooks. No.
Yeah. All right. William Padilla, our friend, is back. If I go on a trip to Catalina Island from 22nd Street, what tackle do you recommend? I have an 8,000 spinning rod setup for Taddy and Poppers, for foamers, 2 different Speedmasters, 8 and 10 outfits for live bait. Is that good? I think so. Most of the time here recently, they've been fishing the island, and you get a chance or two at a yellowtail. You catch mostly calico bass, sheep's head, rockfish. But, you're going to and fro, so you get a chance maybe
You never
at some
know.
bigger tuna or dorado or
Yeah,
something like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think
Just
you'd be...
be prepared.
Yeah,
have it
absolutely.
prepared. Have it set up.
Kim Herbert says, you guys come out to Missouri and snag some paddlefish and eat homegrown grass-fed beef. Kim, you're killing me. I'm on my way. I'm booking my flight right now. The guys on the Independence are going to kill me if I'm with you there in Missouri, but man, I'm so tempted. Maybe this fall. I know the weather starts to go downhill pretty fast there around October, November, but man, I would love to do that, no question. Cryptocurrency. Will a whopper plopper work for top water bluefin?
I can't say. Never
You don't
tried
know what
it.
a water I don't either.
Yeah.
I'm assuming it's a popper. Yeah, they work good on bluefin tuna. I'm not sure about that particular brand, but if it's a popper, sure, no problem, right, Danny?
I get. Well,
throw
you
it
have
in
to
the middle
try
of the
it. Yeah,
foamer
sure. You don't know till you try it.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's always the thing. If you have it and nobody else has tried it, I mean, you could be the hot dog that day.
Yes.
Especially if you got the only one and they're on it.
You
know.
darn right. Man, we are getting so close to 75 likes. How long are we into the show? Are we 2 hours
Keep
in
them
yet?
coming, folks.
Man, we are 2 hours into the show, and we are not slowing down because Tony said he's not throwing us out till 9 o'clock.
Oh, he changed it. All right.
my God.
Thank you, Tony.
Tony, can you please throw us out at 8?
That's windbags.
I'm
Yeah.
getting tired. I'm kidding. I was up at 4:30 this morning getting ready for
Oh,
the
my
morning
God.
briefing.
Yeah.
Let's keep this
Amazing.
party going, man. Brian Brown, hey, Danny, Phil, do you guys see this good fishing lasting till October? Beyond? Thoughts? Go ahead.
Absolutely.
Me too.
Absolutely.
Me too.
And there's a good shot. You just don't know. We don't have that crystal ball, but by all indications, because of the bait and everything else, I think we're going to see it. Generally, as the water cools, then the squid starts showing up. So now you got a different round of baits that are being thrown out there for different species. So you just don't know. But I say, yeah, I don't think this fishing is going to let down. Basically, I mean, it may go all year round.
I think
it may just
it's
go all
very
year round.
possible.
Yeah, and we still may see the fish that Phil and I bet everything on that we got 4 of them. So we were technically right.
Do you feel like that when the water starts to cool down, those winged creatures, albacore
very,
might show
very
up?
possible. I mean, we got the biomass. We have the chovies, so that's that's their favorite fish. That's their favorite bait.
Tyler Tanaka says Charlie Brown hooks seem to be very popular with the super salty dudes on the 10+ day long range boats. So
There you go.
the
I'm
boys
gonna
are.
have to try. I guess I'm gonna have to try them.
Yeah,
I haven't used them, no, but yeah,
I'm pretty sure I heard that.
got to take a look at them.
Whopper plopped is not a popper. It's a largemouth bass lure. Yeah, I'm sure that would work. You've never heard of that largemouth
No.
bass lure? No.
No.
I'm
but
sure that would
I've
work.
been kind of out of the bass scene for a while.
Yeah.
When we go up, we because our state has really completely messed up bass fishing in California, where you have to tag it, it's got to dry, it's got to do this and that. If they would have implemented what we had suggested back there 20 years ago, in putting it, and putting a solution in your live well where it would kill everything, and you run it through. Now you got to tag it, it's got to sit for so many days, be dry. The only guys that can do that are the real serious guys like Butch Brown, where he's got 4 boats sitting in 4 different places. That's not real convenient for everybody, folks. And California in general, they win the stupid award every year, and they continue to outdo everybody with stupidity when it comes to decisions like that. So you're welcome. You've earned it.
Wild Willie, the ghost popper, clear one, is working on the bluefin tuna. And that's been working for a while, actually, Wild Willie, as you well know.
yeah.
I've seen a few people catch them on them. Yeah, it has been very, very consistent, very, very good. PNS Hornjack, it's a topwater bass lure that has the little propeller on it. Makes a big wake. Israel de la Cruz, the new ghost popper, has a propeller on it, which like the Whopper popper, but for big game. Okay, perfect. Yeah, I'm starting to get this now.
Are they through wired?
Huh?
You usually want something like that where you're fishing the bluefin that it's got a through wiring system in it.
I'm not sure about that.
Yeah,
Israel, do you know the answer to that?
Yeah.
Through wire? Jeremy, what is the winter fishes here in SoCal? What do we catch in the wintertime? Everyone is talking about bluefin tuna, yellowfin tuna, dorado, and yellowtail. I'd like to try a Whopper popper myself. Man, we got the Whopper popper crowd going on now. All I'm thinking about is tomahawk steak. But Whopper popper is okay. Wintertime fishing around here depends, right?
Well,
Because
you've got a good opportunity with the BFTs and the yellows. I think with the cooler water, you'll see, and maybe albacore,
Yeah.
But the YFTs and the Dorado generally will head south.
right.
Yeah,
And then you're
with
left
the
with
cooler
calico
water.
bass, yellowtail in the wintertime,
yellowtail,
right? Some
Me-
halibut,
albacore.
albacore,
Well, we'll
white
see,
sea
we'll
bass.
see. Yeah, white sea bass. Yeah.
Rock cod is great.
Yeah.
Are we closed in the wintertime on rockfish?
Oh, who?
can't remember.
I don't know. This is California.
I know.
Who knows?
It's almost lobster season. You realize that?
Really?
Yeah, we've got, let me think. I think it's next Tuesday night. What is today? Tuesday. Yeah, a week from today, I think we've got Steve and Gilbert from Promar doing a lobster seminar right here for all of you. You can ask questions at the end of their seminar, which should be really, really good. Those guys are excellent. All right, Naughty Boy 78, do you hook your bait through the nose, mouth, back, or tail? Danny?
Recently,
Depends, right?
recently it depends, but on the bluefin, I've been seeing more success recently with a back hook, and I don't know whether it's just keeping that fluoro out of the water, out of the water more. Where, if you're on a bite, a lot of times with like an anchovy and an albacore, I like, a lower collar or butt hook where they go down and away, but they don't have, they're not as finicky as the bluefin. Bluefin still have, as far as I'm concerned, they got the best eyes in the business. And so, for some reason, my back hooking has been a lot more consistent on the bluefin. So, depends on.
Do you need
the
water?
particular- Sure.
Can
sure.
you catch?
Yeah,
There we go.
Beautiful.
Nice catch.
you got it.
I love it. All right.
Thank
yeah,
you.
I figured you've been
Thank
sitting
you.
talking for two and a half
I'm all
hours.
winded here, and then drying them out.
All right, here we go. Wild Willie says, yes, the ghost popper is through wire. There you are.
Beautiful. Beautiful. That's what you need.
Halibut Man. Mitchell, good to see you, Mitchell. Hey, Phil, I scored second on the Newport Surf Contest this Saturday. Missed first by half an inch.
Oh, that's close.
He's an outstanding fisherman
That's close.
and a great person, Mitchell. Thanks for checking in here. And P&S Hornjack says, yes, go with the ghost popper. Its saltwater design whopper plopper is most likely not strong enough. Dan Smith, yes, Danny, some of our leadership, they get a little hat with a propeller on top. Haha. Don't get me started. Man, he's sick of these maniacs in,
Oh, yeah,
in
yeah,
Torrance,
yeah.
in California
Oh
also.
yeah.
Oh, my
Unbelievable.
God.
Sorry,
do,
guys.
do they
We
do
apologize.
anything for the general populace, or is it just
No,
self-interested politicians?
And it's been like that for years, Dan. I mean, I can remember going up to hearings with Russ Iser, about a lot of things, and you're dealing with basically biologists in college and stuff. So they, as far as actual time on the water and experience on the water, they have none, and it shows. And sadly, they're the ones that are doing the legislation, which is really, the idiots and the morons that run the asylum. So that's where we're at.
Tyler Tanaka, Whopper Popper is through wire, but it's a bass lure. Some intel on Whopper Poppers for offshore. I read a report from a guy that threw it multiple days on a trip to the ridge. He surprisingly didn't hook one fish. That's really weird if you ask me. I can hook one on a piece of bologna. I'm positive about that. That's weird. Okay. I don't get that one. You'd think that something would eat it, right? Israel de la Cruz, those popper hold up to 80 to 100 plus pound tuna. They are heavy duty. Steve wants to know, do you own any glass rods, Danny?
No, I don't. I don't. I have one bamboo rod, which is my grandpa's. But you know, over time, I have to tell you, you know, I mean, between Sabre, CalStar, Fenwick, all those guys, I had hundreds of, yeah, literally hundreds of rods that were glass, but it's all been replaced with graphite. You know, I just got into the technical aspects of it, and not everybody can fish the graphites unless you understand that. But performance-wise, as far as sensitivity goes, is for me, it's the lift. It's got to have the recoil. The recovery is so much faster than glass. I could never go back to glass rod for anything, to be honest with you. You know, and I'm just telling you that because you know, as you get older, and you can see the comfort level. Number one, the weight. It's about a third of the weight as a glass rod. But when it's a third of the weight and recoiling quicker, that's a winner, you know. And having the best of all of that when you're implementing it and combining it with a two-speed reel and everything else, you know, you're looking for something that's light, that's powerful, that recoils quicker, you know. And they could tell you, you know, as far as putting on a fish, if I can just keep turning the handle, you're going to beat a younger guy out that's pulling his behind off with a glass rod. You know, so it's physics. Has to do with physics. The recovery rate, you know, on graphite as opposed to fiberglass. You know, world of difference, folks.
PNS Hornjack, the San Diego just reported 16 bluefin tuna, 1 yellowfin tuna, 30 Dorado for their full day trip today. Really appreciate that update. Thank you so very, very much, Dan Smith. Danny, do you remember the Calcutta rods, bamboo? I remember them as a kid. They were absolutely beautiful to look at.
The only one I have, and I kind of messed it up, was I put
You
it
still
on
have one?
display. Oh, it's my grandfather's.
Uh-huh.
It's got the
Wow.
onyx stone guides.
Oh my God.
You know, so they were, I don't know how they were carved or how they were done, but I have it and it's in pristine shape. Unfortunately, when I moved it around, it had fine colored threads in between, and some of them have come off, so I may have to have some of those redone, you know, but it's a piece of work, you know. I mean, it was, I know my grandpa at one time had, he used that for fishing bluefin off the pier at Redondo.
Oh wow.
He had a day down in Oceanside with 11 white sea bass on it, you know, back, you know, this is, I guess, before limits, but I mean,
Yeah.
you know, it has a heavy duty reel seat that's, I don't know if it was machined or lathe, but yeah, that to me, and the handle was a wooden handle with, it was lathe and had these special cuts, but that's, to me, that's the most precious thing I have, you know.
Oh my God, yes.
It has a lot of sentimental
Value.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
you know, that is that the same as a feather rod that the old Japanese guys that used to come out on the Redondo Special?
Could
when I
be.
was a kid?
You know, it
They'd
had
feather
had
barracuda.
Had it, yeah, well,
They'd
very
have that
similar.
chrome
Very similar
torpedo,
to it. Yeah,
and then
it was pretty stiff, and
Yeah.
they would just
yeah, they were
work it like
masters
that.
at it. They
Yeah.
creamed the barracuda.
But
Yeah.
yeah, it had the onyx. Oh, it had the stone guides. The
Yeah.
tip and it only has one guide.
Yeah.
And a tip, you know, but they were both out of that card. You know, I think it was hand carved stone.
Was that imported from Japan? Did they fish with that type
He
of
had
rod
it.
in
He had
Japan?
it done here. No, he had
Uh-huh.
it made here.
But was he
yeah, the
taught about
Calcutta
that
made
in
it.
Japan,
The
or?
Calcutta probably came
Yeah.
from Japan, I would think.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Jeremy says, are the California rods from Turner's a good value? They say they are made by Phoenix, but half price. Any experience with them? I have no experience. Do you, Danny?
No, but they've been around for a while.
So you think they're probably good, huh?
I'm sure, yeah. But they
Anybody
still
out
have
there
Yeah.
knows anything, throw a comment up there and help Jeremy out.
Yeah, and you know, if you want to, one of these days I'll get a technical thing going for you guys where you understand the difference in the fiberglass scrim graphite rods as opposed to graphite scrim graphite rods. You know, we do have a special show coming up in December. I think it's December 9th. I think it's around December 9th, but I'm going to have the guy that is the premier graphite guy of all time, Gary Loomis, will be coming in here and we'll be doing a show. And you guys don't want to miss that one. You guys are you're gonna wet your pants laughing because of the stories we've got. But I mean, he was this is the G and G Loomis, and he took graphite to another dimension, you know, and it gave me the rods to fish those big bass, gave me the fly rods, high performance saltwater rods, which got me into straight graphite saltwater rods, which that's all I use now. So that'll be in December. So we got a couple months, but he's going to be coming in and taking his great grandchildren to Disneyland, but he's going to be staying here, you know. So for
That's
a day
gonna be
or
a
two,
great
for a day
show.
or two. So we'll have a good time. Don't miss that one.
Yeah,
It'll
Tyler
be
Tanaka,
unbelievable.
you actually anticipated his question. He said, Danny, any updates on the Gary Loomis interview? Very excited about that. So,
It'll be December. Well, coming in on December 9th, so it's going to be about that time.
man, that's going
you
to
know.
be fun.
And I don't know if we're going to be able to do it live or Phil will have to tape it. But you guys, when you hear the stories, you guys are going to be laughing so hard you're going to cry. I guarantee you some of the crazy stuff that we did.
Shoot, we'll try to do that one live so guys
That
like
would be
Tyler
unbelievable. Oh
can
my God.
ask questions.
Yeah,
And
be ready
we might
for
be here for 6
I
hours.
was going to say.
Not like a little 3
Oh
hour
yeah.
show.
I mean, he and I got stories about each other that you guys are going to be in tears about. Some of the stuff that we did.
Oh,
you think
man.
we're little kids.
That
you
is
know.
going to be so
Yeah,
funny.
yeah.
Cryptocurrency, what is the longest you can keep a tuna frozen, then thaw it out for pokey? Depends
You know,
on
as
how
long
you
as it's
freeze it, right?
yeah, if it's
Vacuum packed?
vacuum packed really well, it'll do great. You know.
For a year?
Yeah, I've had some.
Me too.
You know, I've been trying to utilize most of it as much as I can. You know, making poke or even seared tunas and stuff like that. And that worked out good too. I sear it, I'll quarter them and loin them so they're rectangular, and roll them in furikake. You guys know what that is? It's the seaweed. Some of them straight seaweed. Some of them seaweed with the tuna flake, the katsuo flake on it, and that's really tasty. You know, and I'll just roll it in that, and then sear it on each side so it's just barely seared on the outside, and you cut it so it's raw in the middle. Oh my God, you want to knock people out for an appetizer plate? Do it with that. It's unbelievable.
Man, that sounds awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
Naughty Boy 78, do you clean your own bluefin? When you catch a bluefin, do you take it home and clean
Not
it?
anymore.
Me either. I used to.
I go to
all
Fisherman's
the time.
Processing does all my stuff, and then
How about if you catch one here on the Freedom? What'd you do
well
with those fish?
these kids cleaned it.
Oh, that's right.
These kids
Yeah,
get it.
yeah.
Yeah, because I'm not going to do that. I'm past that. I used to spend hours doing that.
Yeah, me too.
Coming off my long range trip, and we'd go to a processing plant that we had Shamrock over in Wilmington, and we'd cut, and I'd cut and cut and cut, and all the people would come and we'd give it all away, and then I'd be so tired I wouldn't cut my own fish, and I'd wait the next day and it wouldn't come out as good, so after that I'll forget it. We're just having it processed,
Yeah,
you guys
exactly.
that want it,
It's
you want to
easier.
come down, come down to San Diego and come get a whole fish, So that's where we're at now. We're getting lazier, and realistically looking, I just want so much to eat fresh, and that's good. The rest, and my dad always had a thing. He says, "Give it away fresh. Let everybody enjoy it while it's fresh." And I subscribe to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Steve says, crazy how a day of fishing costs more than a day at Disneyland. I would turn that around on you, Steve, and say, crazy how a day at Disneyland. Oh, wait a minute. No, that doesn't work. I guess it does cost more. It's worth it, though. I mean, it's the outdoors. And
And you're dealing with usually
I mean,
non-woke people.
it is getting expensive, though.
Yeah,
Steve's making a
yeah.
good point.
Well, my daughter
getting out of
and the
control.
kids, they have yearly passes, but I don't even ask them what it costs. Yeah.
Naughty Boy 78 says, fishing isn't really that expensive if you buy your fish at the store. You go fishing at the
Yeah.
store, right?
Yeah,
I'll take
go ahead.
that one and that one. And
Yeah, there you go.
man,
You're
I hear
guaranteed to
boats
get it.
firing up out here, which means we probably should think about ending
God.
this show. Even though I hate to do it, because I thought Chef Jason was going to come in and talk to you a little bit about their day on the Amigo. But we could do that another time, Danny, right? William Padilla.
Oh, yeah.
That's true. Just to catch bass and rockfish. Cue ball. I used to do a 3-day for what a 1-day cost. Now, these guys are all absolutely 100%
Yeah, but
right.
I could remember working at a gas station when I was 15 and a half. Regular was 17 cents, premium was 19, and the white label, the 100 octane, was 21. So it's hard to reflect back, you know. And I thought I was making big money at $1.35 an hour. You know, so, and that was when I was 15 and a half. You know, I was even underage. But you know, yeah, things have changed. It's
Man, when
scary.
I started at second deck on the Redondo Special and I got that $12 a day paycheck, I thought I was killing it.
Yeah, things have changed.
And when I got raised and became first deck and started making 16 a day, woohoo!
Big time.
Right across the street, the La Penita for Chili Rellenos. Right across from Redondo back in the day. Danny, great show, my friend. Thank you so
All
much.
right.
A boat burger costs less than a burger at Disneyland. That's so
Oh, my
true.
God. Yeah, but when you're on the boat, you know, it makes up for all that, you know, because you're also fishing.
You know the
You know,
only
keep
thing
that
better.
in mind.
You know the only thing better than a boat burger, an aged tomahawk steak from the Barona Casino in the Oaks
There you go.
Steakhouse.
There you go.
Oh, Israel, I can't wait.
Cool.
Danny, what a show, man! We have guys buying raffle tickets. We're not even
Oh,
selling
that's
them.
cool.
And
That's
they just
awesome.
want to help out.
Good people.
Yeah.
What can we say? Well, that's our industry for you, folks. We're very blessed and thanks to have all you guys tuning in. And I see, did the like button and everything go up a little bit? Did
Yeah,
we-
hit that one more time. Can you
There
get
you
to
go.
75
Finish
really
us
fast?
off, guys.
With
Finish
se-
us off.
Yeah,
Hey,
finish us
hey,
off.
hit the
Just get
button.
that like button.
Phil
clicking.
loves that. Come on, make Phil's day. He'll sleep much better tonight. folks.
Danny and I both love it.
Thank
Come
you,
on.
guys.
Just keep it clear. There
Hey,
it
there
goes,
we go.
man. Love you guys.
Awesome.
All right, let's see.
Hey,
we
we'll
got
see
a
you
few.
next week.
We got a
Yeah.
few more. Oh wait, maybe not. Thanks for another great episode, says Mitchell. Steve, thank you, Phil and Danny. We appreciate all you guys do for us. We appreciate
Yeah.
you, Steve. We
Thank you,
appreciate.
guys. Save up your questions for next week, too. We'll be back probably on Thursday on our regular time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. This Thursday
next
we're
week.
not because
Yeah, you're
I'm
fishing.
on the Apollo.
Yeah,
but
yeah. And that comes first. Come on.
Yeah.
That's our job.
Hello,
You know?
McFly says, "Hey." So lots of great stuff,
All
Danny.
right. Thanks,
Thanks
folks.
for putting
Thanks
in
for
so
tuning
many
in.
hours here,
Appreciate
man.
it, but yeah.
Thanks,
All you
everybody.
guys.
We see all the great comments coming in there. Almost to 75 likes. I think by the time I sign off, in about 5 seconds, we're going to hit 75. Here we go. Countdown. 5. Oh, my God. I don't know if we're going to make it. 4, 3, 2, 1. Oh, we didn't get to 75.
And, close.
Oh, yeah, we did. Almost. Here we go. One more.
See you
Come
next
on.
week, folks.
Yeah, take care, everybody.
All righty.
Thanks,
Have a
everybody.
good one. Be safe.
Take care, my friends.